Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's mother-in-law gets her fired and really ends up regretting it. My husband's mom got me fired, but I got revenge, plus final update. I don't even know where to start. I'm still shaking a little as I type this. I've been with my husband Marcus for 6 years and married for 2. From the very beginning, his mother Diane has made it clear that I'm not what she envisioned for her son. I'm not from the right neighborhood. I don't come from money. I didn't go to the right school. She's never said any of this directly because she's too smart for that, but it bleeds through every interaction. The backhanded compliments, the way she talks over me at family dinners, the way she looks at Marcus like she's apologizing to him for having to sit next to me. I worked as an office manager at a mid-sized insurance firm. I loved that job. I was good at it. I had been there for 4 years and I had never had a single write-up, and I was being considered for a regional coordinator position. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I built something there. 3 weeks ago, I got called into HR. My manager couldn't look me in the eye. They told me there had been credible complaints about my conduct, theft of company supplies, inappropriate behavior with a vendor. I just sat there with my mouth open. They handed me a separation agreement and told me to take the weekend to review it. I was walked out of the building with my box of things like I was some sort of a criminal. I cried the whole drive home. I told Marcus and he held me and he said that it must be a misunderstanding. I wanted to believe that. Then my coworker Priya texted me, "Hey, I probably shouldn't say anything, but did you know someone called HR last week? A woman. Said she was a former colleague of yours. I overheard them talking about it. I'm so sorry." A former colleague? I've worked at exactly 2 places in my career. Everyone at my previous job loved me. I have references from them to this day. I started thinking. Diane had asked me once, very casually at Christmas, where exactly I worked. I told her the company name, and I even mentioned my manager's name, because she asked if I knew someone she used to work with there. I just thought nothing of it. But I started thinking harder. I called my old manager from my previous job, a woman named Carol who I trust completely. I asked her if anyone had reached out recently asking about me. She paused. She said, "Actually, yes. A woman called a few weeks ago. Said she was from your current HR department doing a routine reference check. She asked some very specific questions. Some of them were strange. I didn't feel right about it, so I kept it short." Strange questions from someone claiming to be HR. My company doesn't do random mid-employment reference checks. I sat with that for a full day before I said anything to Marcus. When I told him, I watched his face go through about 6 different emotions. He didn't defend his mother immediately, which told me somewhere inside he already knew what she was capable of. He went quiet. That scared me more than anything. I haven't signed the separation agreement. I have a consultation with an employment attorney on Thursday. I don't know what's coming, but I know I didn't do anything wrong, and I know Diane has never faced a real consequence in her life. But that's about to change. Do not sign that separation agreement. That document likely has a clause where you waive your right to sue. An attorney will tell you the same thing. You're doing exactly the right thing. OP. I read it 3 times, and yes, there is a clause. I almost signed it the first night because I was so panicked, but I'm glad I didn't. The fact that Marcus went quiet instead of defending her immediately is actually important. He knows his mother. He's seen this behavior before. The question is what he does now. OP. This is the part that keeps me up at night, honestly. He's a good man, but he's never once held her accountable for anything. I don't know if this is the one thing that changes that, or if I'm about to find out who he really is. Diane has never faced a real consequence in her life. I felt that. There's a specific type of person who operates through quiet destruction and relies on everyone around them being too polite or too scared to call it out. They're always shocked when someone finally doesn't play along. Update 9 days later. The attorney's name is Sandra. She's been doing employment law for 17 years, and she looked at my situation and said, and I quote, This is not complicated. This is tortious interference and potentially defamation. The question is how much we can prove. She advised me not to confront Diane directly. Not yet. First, we build. Here's what we have so far. Carol, my old manager, is willing to write a statement about the phone call she received. She said when the woman called, she introduced herself with a name. She didn't catch the last name, but the first name was D. She thought it was unusual that she was asking whether I had ever handled petty cash or had access to vendor accounts. Those are very specific things to ask if you're just doing a routine check. My company's HR department confirmed to Sandra, through a formal inquiry, that they did not initiate any reference check call during that period. They have no record of it. So someone called my old job, pretending to be me from my current HR department, used a name that starts with D and asked leading questions designed to make me look like a thief. I also found something on my own. I went back through my phone and found a text exchange from the Christmas dinner where Diane asked me about my job. I had texted Marcus afterward, one of those venting texts, and in it I mentioned by name the vendor I worked with most closely. A vendor whose name showed up in the inappropriate behavior complaint against me. She used information I shared in casual conversation to construct a lie specific enough to sound credible. Marcus saw all of it. He sat at the kitchen table and looked at his hands for a long time. Then he said, "I need to call her." I said, "You're not calling her. Not yet. Sandra says no contact with her until we know what we're doing." He listened to me, and that matters. We're not okay right now, Marcus and I, but we are in it together, which is more than I expected 2 weeks ago. He's been sleeping in the guest room, his choice, not mine. He said he needed to think, and we've been talking more honestly than we have in years. Funny how a crisis can do that. Diane called the house twice this week, but Marcus didn't answer. She texted him something about Sunday dinner, and he left it on read. He told me he can't look at her right now. Sandra is sending a formal letter to Diane next week, a cease and desist, and a notice that we are pursuing legal action. She said the letter alone sometimes shakes things loose. People who thought they were invisible suddenly realize they left fingerprints. I'll update again when the letter goes out and we see how she responds. Marcus sleeping in the guest room to think, rather than running to his mom's defense, is growth. Low bar maybe, but in these situations, low bars matter. The fact that she used details OP shared in good faith is the most chilling part of this. She filed it away. She waited. This wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. Final update 3 weeks later. This is the last update. I'm going to keep it clean because honestly, I'm tired and I want to start closing this chapter. Diane received Sandra's letter on a Tuesday. By Wednesday evening, she had called Marcus 11 times. He answered on the 12th. I was in the other room. I could hear his side of the conversation. It started calm and got very quiet. Marcus doesn't yell. He never has. But there is a version of his voice that is worse than yelling. Flat, deliberate, no room in it. I heard that voice. I had never heard him use it with her before. She denied everything at first. Then she said she was just asking questions and only trying to protect her son. Then she cried. Marcus stayed flat. He told her what we had. The statement from Carol, the HR inquiry, the text messages connecting the dots. He told her Sandra's next step was a formal lawsuit that would go on public record. She stopped crying pretty quickly after that. Her husband, Marcus's stepfather Ron, who has always been decent to me, called Marcus the next day. He was calm and straightforward. He said Diane was retaining her own attorney, but that he personally believed she had made a serious mistake and that he was sorry. He said he would make sure she cooperated. I don't know what that conversation looked like in their house, and I don't need to know. Here's where we landed. Diane's attorney reached out to Sandra within the week. They did not want this going to court. What was negotiated? A signed written apology from Diane, a financial settlement that I'm not going to disclose, but that covers my lost income and then some, and a formal letter from Diane to my former employer clarifying that the complaint was false and made in error. That last part was Sandra's idea, and it was the most important one to me. My name needed to be cleared in writing. My former company, to their credit, responded seriously. They reopened the case, reviewed everything, and rescinded the termination. They offered me my job back. I thought about it for 2 weeks, but I didn't take it. What they allowed to happen to me? Walked out with a box, treated like a suspect, no one picking up the phone to ask me directly. That's not a place that I want to go back to. I used the settlement to give myself a runway, and I've already had 3 interviews at other firms. I'm going to be okay. Marcus and I are in couples counseling. It's hard. There are things about his relationship with his mother, patterns that go back decades, that we're only now naming out loud. He's doing the work. Some days I believe in us completely. Other days I'm just not sure. But we're still here, and we're being honest, and that's more than a lot of people get. Diane and I have not spoken. We will not be at the same family events for the foreseeable future. Marcus has made that boundary clearly, and he's held it. Ron sends me a check-in text every few weeks. I appreciate it more than I've told him. The signed apology is in a folder in my desk drawer. I don't need to look at it. I just need to know it exists. For everyone who followed this, thank you. You were strangers, and you made me feel less alone at 2 a.m. more times than I can count. I hope whatever you're carrying right now, you find your way through it too. I did.
Ron called the next day and apologized on his wife's behalf. This guy's been married to her for years, and he still has a spine. Respect.
And Diane used her real first initial when she called. Ma'am, you're committing a crime. Maybe try using a different name next time. Would I be the jerk for bringing my daughter to my cousin's wedding, preventing my sister from going? My sister has a debilitating fear of vomiting. Our family has a history with OCD, and when she was in middle school, she became incredibly sick with E. coli and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. During that time, she vomited frequently and developed moderate esophageal damage from it, which caused pain for months and lingering complications afterward. Since then, she's changed her life to avoid it at all costs because of the trauma. She eats only bland foods, won't eat anything she hasn't prepared herself, doesn't drink alcohol or take medication that could cause nausea, and constantly checks news alerts for salmonella, E. coli, or stomach virus outbreaks. This isn't a mild dislike or fear. She's quit a job and lost relationships over this obsession. There really is no situation where she can simply suck it up, even for a few hours. A few months ago, at my mom's birthday gathering, her fear extended to my daughter. My daughter seemed fine before we went over, but she threw up on the couch while we were there. My sister screamed and immediately left. My daughter later asked why her aunt left without saying goodbye and felt bad that she had scared her. I was upset with my sister at the time for hurting my daughter's feelings, but they worked it out over FaceTime. Since then, my sister has avoided seeing my daughter in person, although she still calls her and sends gifts. That incident did motivate her to seek treatment, and she's been in therapy for a couple of months. Now, my cousin is getting married on Valentine's Day, and my sister called me today saying she doesn't think she can attend if my daughter is there. She's been tracking stomach virus cases in our area and believes my daughter could catch something at daycare. She was crying on the phone, saying she knows her OCD is a problem she needs to fix and that she loves my daughter deeply, but she can't fix this in time for the wedding. She's also very close to this cousin and was supposed to help her get ready, so not going would devastate her and upset the bride. I asked whether she was worried about other guests getting her sick. She said it's easier to avoid physical contact with adults, but my daughter would run right up to her. I said I'd supervise my daughter, but she said children touch everything. I told her that if my daughter gets sick, we wouldn't bring her, but she pointed out that last time we didn't even realize she was sick. I love my sister, but I also love my daughter. I don't think my daughter should be excluded from family gatherings because she got sick once. At the same time, I understand my sister can't fix her mental health overnight, even though she's known for years she needed help and only recently started therapy. I'm worried this could lead to ongoing exclusion of my daughter in the future. My daughter is 3, and I know she wouldn't care about missing the wedding if we planned something fun instead, and childcare wouldn't be difficult to arrange with my husband's parents. But it's the principle of having to change our plans to accommodate my sister's illness that she's known about for years and didn't take steps towards alleviating until recently. I told my sister I'd think about it, but I'm honestly torn. Would I be the jerk if I said no to her request to leave my daughter behind, which is what I'm leaning towards? Edit. I got a lot of comments and I'm still torn. The situation will suck either way. Additional context. In my family, weddings function a lot like family reunions. Many relatives travel long distances, sometimes internationally, to reconnect and meet new family members. The bride and groom specifically want children there for that reason. The bride would prefer my sister be there if the situation were in a vacuum. However, if the bride knows my sister considered not coming, she will not be as understanding. I can't ask the bride without ruining their relationship. There will be other children at the wedding, but my sister's fear is focused on my daughter because she saw her get sick. They're close, and my daughter is the youngest mobile child, and there's currently a mild stomach virus outbreak in our area. I'm also sensitive to this situation because my siblings and I grew up feeling like we had to walk on eggshells around our father's OCD. I don't want my daughter to feel responsible for managing someone else's mental health. I truly love both my sister and my daughter, and I don't want to hurt either of them. Not the jerk, but consider the bride. Would she rather spend the day with your sister, whom she's close with, or with a 3-year-old? Sorry this is a tough situation all around, and it's certainly not fair to you. Yeah, the kind of thing to do here would probably be not bringing your daughter this time. She's young enough that she won't remember missing it, and it sounds like your sister is genuinely trying to get help now. I'd just make sure that this doesn't become a long-term expectation. Hope you're okay. Dealing with this must be very upsetting from many angles. Update 3 days later. A lot has happened since, and I wouldn't say everything that happened was productive. In my initial thread, I decided to tell my sister I wouldn't bring my daughter. During that conversation, I told her this would be the only time I'd make that decision because I didn't want my daughter to grow up the way that we did, constantly adjusting our lives around our OCD father. My sister seemed to really take that to heart. I also asked whether she had talked to her therapist about the situation. She said no, because she was afraid the therapist would tell her something she wasn't ready to hear. I know I might get a lot of hate for this, but I amended my offer. I told her she needed to talk to her therapist about this during her next session and get professional guidance before I excluded my daughter. I made that choice because I don't think it's healthy for her to keep things from her therapist. If the therapist supported her request, I wouldn't argue. But if it risked reinforcing avoidance behavior, I didn't want to accidentally contribute to something that could harm her long term. So my sister spoke to her therapist. Apparently, her therapist told her she can't dictate a guest list as a coping mechanism and that it's not sustainable. The therapist encouraged her to find coping strategies that don't require other people to change their behavior. Before telling me what her therapist said, my sister went directly to the bride and asked if she could wear a mask, sit away from my daughter during the ceremony, and leave early. This created some tension. The bride didn't want a mask in the photos and was disappointed she planned to leave so soon. They eventually compromised, agreeing she would remove the mask for pictures. After that, my sister texted me saying I could bring my daughter. Meanwhile, before receiving that text, I'd already started preparing my daughter not to attend and was arranging a fun day with her grandparents. Then, my cousin called me and vented about the mask situation and mentioned she hadn't made my sister a bridesmaid partly because of her limitations. I asked if it would be easier if my daughter didn't come. She didn't directly say yes, but it was clearly her preference. So I texted my sister that my daughter wouldn't be coming. I didn't initially tell her it was because of my cousin's preference. She became upset and said my cousin wouldn't accommodate her. She also admitted she came to me first because she knew my cousin wouldn't agree to these accommodations. Apparently, my cousin had already been frustrated that my sister planned not to eat at the wedding unless she could bring her own food. My sister argued that excluding someone is more unreasonable than making a small dress code accommodation for a health issue. While I understand her perspective and know she often goes out of her way for my cousin, I'm not the bride and I didn't want to be in the middle of it. She also said my daughter attending could actually help her through partial exposure therapy, but she needed the mask as support. At that point, I was exhausted by the back and forth. All of this happened in a single day. I told my sister my daughter would not be attending and would go to the aquarium instead, and that a wedding isn't an appropriate setting for exposure therapy. I just didn't want either my cousin nor my sister to change their mind again. The wedding is next week, and I don't know whether my sister will still help my cousin get ready. It's painful seeing their relationship strained, and my relationship with both of them feels affected because my daughter and I were caught in the middle. In happier news, I asked my daughter whether she'd rather go to the party, that we called the wedding, or the aquarium with Nana and Gramps. She chose the aquarium, as long as she gets cake afterward. That was apparently her main motivation for attending the wedding anyway. So at least someone is happy. Edit. I did eventually tell my sister that my cousin preferred my daughter not to attend rather than accommodating the mask situation, as my sister figured it out anyway. My sister doesn't want children of her own. She loves being an aunt, but even outside of her OCD, parenthood has never been something she wanted. Looking back, my parents didn't ignore the situation intentionally. My sister's OCD developed gradually. After her illness, dietary restrictions were initially a medical necessity, then became preference, and eventually became part of the obsession. Over time, behaviors like wearing gloves in public, avoiding certain foods, and increasing safety routines became normalized. OCD can creep up slowly. One small adjustment leads to another, and eventually it becomes difficult to see how much life has changed. Edit 2. I see a lot of requests for updates after the wedding, so hopefully I can give one here within a few days after the wedding. Although I don't anticipate it'll be that dramatic. My family is very low confrontation. I'm reading this after a long shift, and wow, this feels exhausting to follow. A kid goes to the aquarium, an adult goes to a wedding, everyone survives. Meanwhile, some of us are dealing with real problems just trying to survive the week. I get that mental health is serious, but this whole situation feels way bigger than it needs to be. Sometimes you just make a simple decision and move on.
The only person with a clear plan here is the toddler with her dessert goals.
Meanwhile, everyone else is negotiating, like this wedding requires legal mediation.
One person wants a wedding, one wants exposure therapy, another just wants the day to end peacefully.
Am I the jerk for asking my neighbor to wait for her laundry at her house? Yesterday, after I picked up my son from school, my neighbor flagged me down in the driveway and asked if she could use my washing machine because hers was broken. I said sure because she's my neighbor. For context, I just moved here last month. I've only talked to her maybe twice, and this was her first time coming into my house. She's not elderly, she's probably in her 30s or early 40s. She's married and has kids. While she was in her house gathering her laundry, I made grilled cheese sandwiches for myself and my son. When she came over, I showed her where the machine was. After she loaded it, she came into the kitchen. She asked if she could have a grilled cheese. Now, I might be a jerk, but I thought that was a ridiculous thing to ask. I told her I only made 2. She asked why I did that since I knew she was coming over. Well, because she was coming over for laundry, not grilled cheese. My son offered her half of his. I always put an egg in my grilled cheese sandwiches. She bit into it and got grossed out by the egg, which she should have seen before she bit into it. Then she asked where my trash can was. My son said, "Don't waste food." So she just handed the sandwich back to him. I told him to switch halves with me and then threw away her half when he wasn't looking. Then she asked to use my bathroom, which I agreed to. She came back afterward and asked if I had any refreshments. I said no and suggested she wait for her clothes to finish at her home. She asked if I was trying to get rid of her. I said we needed to get started on homework. She said she didn't mind. I said we needed to keep distractions to a minimum. She said,
"Well, I know when I'm not wanted,"
and left. When she came back to switch her laundry to the dryer, she was visibly irritated. I apologized for hurting her feelings. She said it didn't matter, but she sounded angry, then left again. I felt bad, but I also felt annoyed because who acts like that? Not the jerk. Let her be upset. If she doesn't get why she was rude, you're not going to be able to explain it to her. Update the next day. I have a tiny update about my weird neighbor with the broken washing machine. She came back. I know 90% of you said to never let her back in the house, so you're probably going to judge me heavily. In my defense, I was still a little flustered from the whole thing. She waved me down again when we were walking up to the house and said to wait because she had something for me. I waited because I'm stupid. I figured she'd just knock on the door anyway if I didn't. She came back with a pie that she said was a thanks for letting her use my washing machine. It was an apple pie made with canned filling and way too much sugar. Not terrible, but not great either. No lattice crust, which honestly feels like the whole point of making a pie. Anyway, I said thank you, and she didn't have to do that. Then she said,
Let's go inside and try a piece.
I told her it was almost my son's nap time. She said,
Great, we can eat pie while he naps.
A lot of you suggested she might be interested in me, which was still in my head. For context, I'm divorced. I have primary custody of my son, and my son and I are part of a minority group. She seemed very focused on asking questions about my divorce and personal life the first time. So I said, yeah, and you should invite your husband over too. I was expecting that to deter her. Nope.
She got excited and said, That's a great idea. You take the pie and I'll go get him.
At this point, I was internally thinking, what the? My son and I went inside and I started cutting the pie because at that point, I felt like a victim of fate. She came back with her husband. I've never seen a man look so exasperated and embarrassed in my life. We ate pie, and the whole time she asked me very personal questions about my divorce, like how long ago it happened, where we used to live, why I moved, why I have primary custody, what my ex-wife does for work, and other nosy things. She even asked why we got divorced, but her husband cut her off and said, "That's a private matter." Every once in a while, she would give her husband these looks, and he would pretend not to see them. After we finished the pie, she asked if I had coffee. Her husband said, "Honey, he wants to put his son down for a nap. Let's go home." She said,
"Oh, he doesn't mind."
Her husband said, "He minds," while gently taking her elbow and leading her toward the door. She kept insisting I didn't mind until they were outside. I gotta say, I think I'm in love with this guy. As weird and annoying as the whole thing was, I feel a lot better about my neighbor now. Some of the speculation in the comments had me a little nervous, but after meeting her husband, I'm pretty sure she's just bored. Her kids are teenagers now, and she probably just wants something to do, which is fine. It's annoying, but not creepy. So to all the people who are worried she was trying to seduce me or spy on me or steal from me, don't worry. Based on her husband's reactions, she's just like this.
Asking for a grilled cheese in someone else's kitchen 5 minutes after meeting them? That's Olympic-level entitlement.
She treated his home like a hotel lobby with complimentary snacks. My super rich friend insults us on her wealth-building podcast and tells her listeners to stay away from average people. My bestie since childhood, let's call her Jenny, has her finances secured. She, who's 35 years old, built and made an exit from a business making her insanely rich. She comes from a very humble background, and I can confidently say that she has earned it by working for it. I come from a pretty average background, and I have a pretty average job today. So do most of our friends. I don't miss anything, and I do have savings. I can go on trips, etc. Her story is a fairy tale, and we're all super proud of her. But a couple of years ago, she was approached by an agency that pushed her to become a public motivational speaker and a podcaster. Since then, she has become increasingly unbearable to be around, and I eventually came to the point where I needed to tell her. Since Jenny got rich, she has always been herself, just in a more fancy package, and I've loved that for her. You go, girl. She has always been super respectful about other people's finances, and when we meet up, she's always up for whatever the rest of us can afford. Even on her bachelorette party, she made a deal about making sure to do things everyone could afford. When pursuing her journey as a motivational speaker and a podcaster, I had to revisit everything I thought about her. All of her motivational tips were related to not wanting to be an average person, and that anyone can become just as rich as her if they weren't lazy. In one episode, she talks about making sure to surround oneself with successful people to avoid looking at average people as an acceptable norm. She even went as far as describing another friend's husband as her nightmare partner, as he lacks ambition. She didn't mention him by name, but other details that made us able to identify him. Over time, this worsened, and eventually other people stopped inviting her to things. Now the podcast took another turn, and she started to talk about how to handle when people turn their back on you for becoming successful, and how lonely it is at the top. I decided it was time to tell her that I think she's losing grip of reality, and that if she continues with being so judgmental in her podcast, she will end up just as lonely as she describes herself to be. Jenny got super upset with me and told me she wouldn't expect this from her best friend, and claims I've been jealous and felt inferior to her my whole life, which is absolutely not true. She tells me the whole podcast thing is her playing a part, and that she exaggerates her opinions for reach. She thinks I'm the one who has convinced all the others to leave her side and wants me to apologize before ever speaking to me again. Help me here. Am I the jerk? Should I apologize? Not the jerk. She's not lonely because she's at the top. She's lonely because she has lost all touch with humanity. Not the jerk. She sounds insufferable. I know several people who are wealthy enough to never have to work again for a single day in their lives, but they also happen to be some of the most humble people I know. Jenny seems like one of those main character syndrome folks who made it to the top of the mountain, so to speak, and now has to yell at the top of her lungs to let everyone know. The problem is that in this metaphor, she is also rolling boulders down that hill that affect the lives of those people who are still striving to better themselves. Consider not apologizing to her. She's better off learning that her behavior will alienate the friend she had. It looks like she was able to keep herself humble until she got in touch with these people who thought they could make money through her and fed her with crap about how she is inherently better than everyone else because she has money, which is not hard to do when society has been drip-fed this for the last 50 years at least. Now she's finding out, but she's internalized so much of this crap that instead of, oh my goodness, I'm antagonizing everyone in my life, she just goes to, it's lonely at the top. Not the jerk. Maybe Jenny needs a reminder that money can't buy everything. If the podcast is costing her all of her friends, she's paying a very high price indeed. If she's willing to trade actual, real friends for likes, she's reaping what she has sown. No jerks here. What you and your friends are missing here is that her target audience is people who are on the same journey she has been on, business owners and entrepreneurs who are determined to build tremendous wealth. There's nothing wrong with being average, but please understand that average was not what she wanted to be, nor what her listeners desire to be. She achieved her goal, and now she's helping others do the same. Just because she's your friend does not mean you need to be listening to her podcast, especially if it's going to upset you. If Michael Jordan did a podcast helping basketball players who were on the road to the NBA, he wouldn't tell them to surround themselves with average players who don't take the game seriously. What your friend is saying has been said by countless other speakers because there is a certain level of truth to it. And most importantly, if she truly believes in surrounding herself with above-average people, then she in fact sees you as above average. You don't have to be wealthy to be an above-average person. How we treat others is what determines who we are, not our net worth. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her friend? Please let us know.
I prefer to surround myself with below-average people. Why do you think I married Reddit boy over here?
Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law I'll pay for my wedding myself if she can't respect my few wishes? I, 25 male, will be marrying my fiancée, G, who's 25 female, later on this year. I proposed to her a little bit before Christmas, and we're aiming for a November wedding. G has 2 older brothers, only one of who has been married, and for one reason or another, my mother-in-law, who's 68, was not involved in the planning of their wedding at all. She was pretty hurt over this, and she's always wanted to help plan her kids' weddings. So when we got engaged, she offered to pay for most of the wedding, and in return, we agreed to let her help with the planning. In my mind, as long as I'm marrying G, I'm happy, so I was okay with this. The only thing I'm really sticking to that I refuse to change is what I'm wearing. My mother passed when I was very young, and she was the daughter of first-generation Scottish immigrants. My grandparents moved from the north of Scotland in the 60s, and my mother was brought up learning about her parents' culture. Since she passed, I've had a hard time connecting to that side of my family, and after my grandfather passed a few years ago, I decided that I wanted to wear her family's kilt when I got married. I talked about this with my fiancée before we got engaged because it is an unorthodox idea, but she thought it was sweet and liked the idea. A few days ago, my mother-in-law came up to me and told me I'd have to wear a traditional tuxedo instead of a kilt. When I asked her why, she said it went against the view she had of G's wedding, and that the colors of the kilt clashed with the colors she had chosen for the wedding. When I told her that this was pretty much the only thing I'm unwilling to budge on, she brought up how she's paying for most of the wedding and wearing a tux is the least I could do. When I brought this up to G, she echoed the sentiment her mother had made about paying for the wedding. I'm able to pay for it myself, and I told G that I thought she understood how important this connection to my mother was to me, especially because she can't be there, and if she wasn't able to accept that, then I'd pay for the wedding myself. G told me I was being a bit of a jerk for being this stuck to what I want to wear, and once my mother-in-law heard that I would just pay for the wedding myself, she got really upset because it's always been her dream to plan G's wedding. I'm feeling like a bit of a jerk right now and was wondering if I should just wear a standard tux. My family's kilt is really important to me, but this is causing more conflict than I thought it would. Update. I took most people's advice and I talked to my fiance about this issue before going forward. Her siding with her mother like this and going against me was really out of character, so I felt like I really needed to figure out what was on the go. The long and short of it came down to money. G doesn't make as much of a salary as I do. I make about 2.5 times her salary. Despite this, she's pretty insistent of things being 50-50 between us. Our finances aren't combined until after marriage because of some weird tax issue and legal things in our home region. But even with me making more, she insists we're a team and have to go 50-50 on big things: rent, car payments, electrical, wedding, etc. So even though I'm able to pay for the wedding myself, she's not able to pay for the half she feels like she'd have to pay. Because of this, she's really clinging to the idea of her mother paying for our wedding, even though I'd be more than happy to pay for it myself. We talked yesterday evening, and she said that since she accepted her mother paying for the wedding, their relationship has become pretty strained, with mother-in-law pretty much taking over the wedding planning. Apparently, mother-in-law was initially pushing for a tropical destination wedding in Jamaica, an idea that G put down quickly as she knows I hate the idea of a destination wedding, and mother-in-law had even tried to get final say on the dress that G was going to wear, as well as she wanted final say over who the bridesmaids were. She wanted her friend's daughters, who G is not even close to, in the party. I've had a pretty good relationship with mother-in-law so far, so I found it kind of odd how she went total momzilla. But I have noticed her and G drifting apart a bit, although I never thought it was related. A few people thought that G actually hated the idea of the kilt and had mother-in-law acting as the bad guy to try and change my mind, and you're not completely wrong. She doesn't hate the idea, but really doesn't like that the other male members of the bridal party will be wearing tuxes, while myself and my cousin would be wearing kilts. She wanted consistency across the board and had expressed this to her mother. Mother-in-law took this as the opportunity to get me to wear a tux instead of getting the groomsmen to wear kilts, and had the wedding colors changed, without G's knowledge, to contrast with my family's. When I talked to G yesterday, she said that she had just gotten out of a massive fight with her mother over changing the colors and really wasn't in the mood to start another argument with her. She acknowledged she was in the wrong for siding with her mom and seemed genuinely sorry. She said that in the stress of planning a wedding while having an overbearing mother, she had thought of the kilt as another detail and had forgotten the significance of it to me, and that she was really sorry. In the meantime, a few changes have been made. My mother-in-law is no longer paying for the wedding and no longer involved in planning. I'm going to pay half, as G never wanted me to pay more than half by myself for something that's for both of us, and my father-in-law is covering the parts that G is going to have some trouble covering. Mother-in-law is aware of this. Father-in-law and mother-in-law are still together, however, he's not telling her that he's helping to pay. We're still getting married in November, wedding colors have been changed back to match my kilt, and we've decided to rent kilts in matching colors for the other groomsmen so that they can match the aesthetic. Thankfully, no deposits were put down on things like tux rentals, bridesmaids' dresses, or decorations, so no money lost. I know a lot of people told me to seriously reconsider marrying G, and going into our talk last night, I really was. But I'm happy with how things turned out, since this really was an anomaly in her behavior, and I really am excited to marry her. This should be a really good learning lesson, and the point of it is, should the wedding take place? The only opinions and wants that matter in this relationship seem to be of your mother-in-law and significant other. Are you willing to be an afterthought in your own marriage? Tell mother-in-law that if she wants to see a standard tux at your wedding so much, she should wear one. Not the jerk. And you're getting a glimpse right now of how life will be if you marry this person. You told her one thing was important to you, and she could do whatever she wants for everything else. She ostensibly agreed, and now your needs are immaterial, and you're a jerk for wanting anything at all your way. You will be making a huge mistake marrying this person. Your mother-in-law will stomp all over your boundaries, and more importantly, your wife doesn't give a hoot how you feel, and will happily join her mom in stomping on them and then go Darvo on you and make it like she's the victim and you're being a jerk to have any wants or needs. This is red flag city. Walk away or you will regret it. I absolutely guarantee it. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his mother-in-law? Please let us know. I asked my boyfriend's mom to teach me some recipes and all heck broke loose. My boyfriend Dan and I have been together for a little over 2 years. No relationship is perfect, but ours is basically as good as it can be. A little conflict, maximum happiness, everything is wonderful, yada yada yada. My family adores him, and his dad seems to like me just fine, but for some reason, his mom, Carol, has never been too fond of me. I don't push too hard, I'm really respectful whenever I'm around her. I bring her gifts for birthdays and holidays. She's never given me one. Not that I care, it's just kind of strange since I've been around for a while. Always try and help when I can, etc. And yet, she's always been fairly cold to me. Not outright rude or terrible, just cold. I kind of wrote it off, figuring she's just a tough nut to crack. Anyway, my boyfriend and I recently finished our master's degrees and were feeling bored with our jobs and figured, what the heck, let's move to a different country. When we told the families, everyone was ecstatic for us except Dan's mom, which really wasn't surprising. We both have jobs lined up, so it's not like we'll be bumming around or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with traveling, I'm a huge advocate. So the only reason she's not on board with it is because Dan won't be living 25 miles away from her anymore, even though it's a great opportunity for both of us and something he's been wanting to do for a while. We leave in a few weeks, so we've been trying to spend time with them as much as we can. Dan knows about how his mom treats me, and even though she's not rude to me, he said that he's talked to her about whether or not she likes me, to which she'll reply,
She's fine. I'm perfectly nice to her.
So like I said, she's not terrible, she's just not great, to the point where I'd never ask Dan to bash her or anything. It just makes me sad because I want to be close with his family because they mean a lot to me. So I've been making some efforts to hang out with her. Anyway, we were over at his mom's house for dinner this weekend and I offered to help her in the kitchen, to which she reluctantly obliged. Now, she's a decent cook, but in no way is she an amazing chef or anything. Never mentioned secret recipes or anything like that, but I thought it would be a nice gesture to ask her to teach me some of her recipes. So while I was chopping onions, I said, Hey Carol, I was wondering if you would teach me some of your recipes. Dan loves your cooking, and I would love to cook for him when we're abroad to remind him of home since I know he'll miss your cooking. Then she stopped and walked out of the room. It was super awkward, so I waited around a bit. When she finally came back in, she started yelling at me about how out of line I was. She was saying stuff like, How dare you? You think you can replace me? And all of this crazy stuff. I was completely shocked and dumbfounded. I immediately walked out and told Dan, who was heading into the kitchen to see what the commotion was about, that I would be leaving. He told me to wait in the car because he was really confused. I sat there for 3 minutes when he came out apologizing, saying his mom was completely in the wrong, so we left. So here I am a few days later, very confused. I'm happy Dan stuck up for me, but this situation is so ridiculous, I have no idea where to go from here. He's currently not speaking to his mom, but has received texts from his dad apologizing and chalking his mom's freak out due to the stress of Dan leaving soon. I don't want to be the reason he severs his relationship or anything, but I also feel pretty disrespected over something so silly. Any advice on how to handle this? She feels threatened that you're replacing her as the woman in Dan's life. That's why she reacted the way she did when you asked about the recipes. This is something she has to deal with on her own because she seems like a very overprotective mother that hasn't grasped the concept that her son is an adult. OP. Thank you. I totally get that she may feel threatened that I'm taking her son away, but I want the opposite. I think that's why I'm so hurt. The last thing I want to do is pull him away from his family, and in an effort to get closer to her, she pushed me away and accused me of something ridiculous. Just know mother-in-law is full of these stories of loony moms who have unhealthy relationships with their sons. For the most part, they are really funny. How dare you? You think you can replace me? This, however, is disturbing. I mean, he's 27 years old already. At least Dan stood up for you right away. OP. It's crazy to me because Dan always mentioned she was overbearing, but not anything like this. Dan is super independent and just about as much of a mama's boy as any normal guy who loves his mom. So this whole possessive thing came out of nowhere. It even freaked Dan out a bit. But yeah, he's a great guy. It sounds like Dan's mom is having an episode of a combination empty nest syndrome and massive jealousy. She feels like you're taking her son away, that she's losing him, and that you're trying to replace her. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. Dan's response was appropriate, and should this sever some ties, it's not your fault. If you really want, you can try to reach out to Carol in a non-confrontational way. Shoot her a thoughtfully worded email, but I would avoid apologizing as you haven't done anything wrong. Maybe something like this. Carol, I wanted to reach out to you to discuss what happened the other night. It was not my intention to upset you or make you feel like you're being replaced. We're both going to miss you and Dan's dad very much when we're abroad, and I was hoping to find a way to feel closer to you. I love Dan, and being able to have a relationship with you is important to me because I know how important you are to him. Update. I definitely sympathized with her because I know it must be scary to have your only kid, yes, Dan is their only kid, as a lot of you guessed, pulled away by another woman, even though we have completely different relationships. But regardless, it doesn't excuse what she did, so I let Dan initially reach out to her, to which I followed up later. Dan gave her a call and was very nice, yet firm with her on how she treated me. Carol responded saying that she was really embarrassed and sorry, and that she felt terrible and wanted to give each of us some time to cool off before reaching out. I initially told Dan that I wanted to send her an email based on what one Redditor drafted, so he told her that I would reach out when I was ready because I really wanted to frame the conversation rather than have her feel like complete crap for her outburst. So I sent her a text later in the evening and we met for breakfast this morning. She was so apologetic and cried, and I said that although it did hurt me, that I understood where she's coming from, and I in no way am trying to replace her. I respect her a lot because she raised my literal dream man. So even though we may not be best friends, she's done a lot of things right. We hung out for a bit, ended things wonderfully with a redo invitation to cook together this weekend, her recipes, and hugged goodbye. All is right in the world. Am I the jerk for not paying any more of her tuition unless she can give me the time of day and show me some respect? I want to start off by saying that I've done everything for my kids. I was there at the hospital for their births, signed the birth certificates, I changed diapers, and always provided them with food and designer clothes. But my ex is extremely manipulative and has tried to turn my kids against me since day one. She manipulated my older daughter, who refused to talk things out with me. I will still forgive her once she finally decides to snap out of my ex's manipulations and come back to me. Me and my younger daughter, Sarah, had a great relationship until she suddenly flipped a switch in her senior year and also was turned against me. When Sarah was applying for college, I really didn't want her to go far because she has book smarts but lacks common sense, and I didn't want her to fall for scams. I even offered to buy her a car if she lived with me and commuted to a local school. But Sarah just said that the local programs didn't have what she wanted. I found it insulting because I went to a local college, and despite what my ex thinks, I am highly educated without some PhD. Sarah did not listen to my input at all. Her and my ex barely involved me in her college application process. My ex was extremely unhelpful. I would just ask basic questions like tuition since I was going to spend considerable funds, and she would just send website links. It would have only taken a few seconds for her to just answer the questions so I could stay in the loop about what's going on. But this was just part of my ex's way of turning Sarah against me. Sarah enrolled at an out-of-state college, and I didn't even find out until May because my ex didn't bother telling me. I didn't even get to see Sarah off at the airport since she didn't tell me she had left until after she was already gone. I constantly text Sarah asking how things are going. I send her funny posts on Facebook and ask her to call me. I even offered to split the cost of plane fare so Sarah could come visit over the holidays. She only responds on email, and it's always her saying she's too busy. I'm frustrated and tired of this. She's taking a lot of classes right now, but I'm her father, and it would only take a second of her day to just text me back or talk to me on the phone for 5 minutes. I've supported and been providing for Sarah since day one. I'm done being disrespected when I've bent over backwards for 18 years to give her everything and have sent $7,000 just this year for her schooling. I could be doing a million other things with that money. Maybe I am at fault for enabling it for so long, but not anymore. I sent an email telling her that I'm done with being disrespected, and if she can't even give me the time of day, then my ex can find someone else to split the cost of her schooling with. I sent the email over 2 hours ago, and there's been no response. I know my wording might seem harsh, but I'm just so done with being disrespected. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. The way you talk about the women in your life is upsetting, concerning. Of course you paid for everything your kid needed during her childhood. That was your responsibility. You don't get a trophy for supporting the kids you chose to bring into the world. You aren't special. Now that she's 18, you could cut her off if you wanted to, but you'd be stupid to think that she's going to come crawling back to play by your manipulative rules with all the hugs and kisses for her daddy. She'll just do what most of us had to do. She'll take out loans to cover what you stopped paying. You'll probably never see her again. Forget about her potential future kids. You won't be their grandfather. I don't think your wife had to turn your kids against you. I think you did that all by yourself.
Sounds like the ex didn't have to turn the kids against him. They just realized how terrible of a person he is on their own. And of course, classic narcissist, it couldn't have possibly been the consequences of his own actions. This reeks of missing reasons. If you're not legally obligated to contribute to her education, you can do as you please. But you're this close to living the rest of your life as if you'd never had kids. And they won't be the ones regretting their choices. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. It comes across as you resenting your ex's education level and trying to weaponize your daughter to follow the path you took rather than the one they took, regardless of what your daughter wanted, and ever since then, your relationship has suffered for it. You also take zero accountability for anything you might have done to make these relationships go south, and just chalk it up to brainwashing. You can withhold the tuition money if you want, but it'll just be another daughter you never speak to again. Not the jerk. In general, nobody should seek advice from Reddit, but especially if you're male. For guys, the sentiment here will always be that you are in the wrong just because you're a dude. Your ex-wife, your daughters, your employees, they will always be the victims of what a horrible person you are. The only way you can get Reddit to side with you is by making yourself out to be the weakest dude possible. One who lets others walk all over him, disrespect him, and take advantage of him. I just saw a post the other day where the guy starts out by saying, "Let me start by saying that I'm the dad who always allows the women in his life to tell him what to do. I'm basically their ATM machine at this point, and I don't mind it because I wouldn't change a thing and I love my family." And guess what? He was voted not the jerk because that's what these people think you should be. The idea of leading your family is now frowned upon by society. You're now expected to be the provider who gets zero respect. I challenge you to find one TV show in the past 20 years where the father isn't made out to be some clown who's constantly condescended by his wife and kids. People have been programmed to think this way because when the shepherd is not respected or able to lead his flock, the flock is easier to lead astray.
My son wants to go in your wheelchair. Get out so he can try it. I've been browsing this sub for a while and never thought I would post on here. Oh, how I was wrong. Backstory. I'm a 29-year-old female and have been confined to a wheelchair since I was 17. I'm a quadriplegic and can use a manual wheelchair at home, but use a power wheelchair in public for practical reasons. I have mostly full use of my upper body and partial use of my lower body. I've been mistaken for a paraplegic a few times. This happened about a month ago. I was downtown shopping when I heard a deafening squeal of a kid who was about 12. Entitled Kid.
Oh, that's a cool scooter. How fast does it go?
Me. Thanks, little man. Yeah, it goes pretty fast.
Can I have a go?
Me. Thinking he meant to sit in my lap and I'd drive him around, which in any other scenario I would have been happy to do, but not with everything going on right now. Sorry, dude, but not today. The kid says, "Aw, okay," and stomps away, and I thought that was the end of it, but you know, I wouldn't be here if it was. A few minutes later, I hear the ground start to tremble as the Megatron Karen approaches. Oh boy, I thought, this is going to be fun. Entitled Parent.
Excuse me? What did you say to my son?
Me, confused. He wanted a ride in my wheelchair. I said no.
What did you just say to me? You need to respect your elders and not talk down to my poor little angel. You don't even need that wheelchair. I know your legs work. You're just faking it to get attention. Now let my son have a ride.
She couldn't have been much older than 35, so obviously not my elder. But even if my nan spoke to me like that, I wouldn't reply kindly. Me, all of my patience officially gone. My wheelchair cost more than your car, and you want me to miraculously heal out of my chair so your dirty little goblin can take a joyride? Okay. Goblin was smirking at me the entire time. Here's where the story gets graphic. I have hypermobility, which makes my joints extremely flexible and dislocation easy and relatively painless. I also have titanium screws inside my neck that creak loudly when I move a certain way. Bring on the Frankenstein. I lean forward, pushed down my right arm, dislocating my shoulder blade with a loud pop as I twisted my neck to make it creak, then pushed down with my left hand to contort my arm and hand into an unnatural position. This all happened in a few seconds, but it was enough to make Karen, red-faced and horrified, scream out,
"Stop! It's okay. Entitled Kid, let's go."
And they hurried out of the store. I could hear laughter coming from behind me as a friend who works there walked up to me and said, "That was mean." He knew me well and had seen me pull that trick before.
Needless to say, I never had an issue like that again. It's a small town and news travels fast. Don't mess with the girl in the wheelchair. Entitled Aunt locks our house because she wants to sell it. So people really wanted to know the other story about my aunt. So backstory for those who haven't read the last one. I lived in my grandparents' house for 10 years. Both grandparents are passed and there is no will, so not sure what to do with the house. But grandma's wish before passing was not to sell the house. About my aunt, she's married to her husband who has his business abroad and has one boy of my age. He's a really sweet kid and I love him, but she sent him to a boarding school for character development. So now over to the actual story. Now when we were in the house, we had everything bad happen to us. We lost money, my dad got his leg hurt under a bus, he also had cancer, I got depression and anxiety, my dad lost his job, etc, etc. So basically a bad omen. We moved about a year ago, and I kid you not, our life instantly became perfect, like amazing. See, the only reason we had to make trips back and forth in that house was because our old house was 220 square yards, and our current home is 110 square yards, so we couldn't fit all of our furniture in it. So my grandma passed a few weeks ago, and after her passing, my aunt, who is very hungry for money, has been trying to get my other psycho aunt convinced to sell the house, but they won't have a home after that, so she denies. Now, that lady at least wants to sell our floor. The house has great value, so she really wants to get the money from it. Her husband returned from Thailand, where he lives, to attend the Chautha, something done to pay final respects to someone. Now, we didn't go home, so we have no idea what the heck went on there, but my psycho aunt, who was kind of concerned, told us that the aunt came with her husband and he put locks on our house, hence stopping us from doing anything in it. We had to get new stuff for our new home that we're gonna move to in May and wanted to keep those things in that house because we have no space where we're living. Now, my aunt told my mom about this when we went there to accept the delivery, but mom and dad went to a locked house. She was restricting us from getting our personal property. There are books, tables, cabinets, almiras, and whatnot in that house. We can't get any of it now, just because that jerk thinks she's entitled to that house and our stuff. My mom's relatives, except for my grandma and grandpa, don't like my dad for some reason. It's a long story. Now let me tell you what. My dad is the sweetest human being I know. He's there to protect us. He handles whatever insults my mom's relatives throw at him. He works really hard for us. He gives us every luxury, even in dire times and whatnot. I don't know why they don't like him. He's such a nice man. I literally had to protect him at my grandma's funeral so that no one would say anything to him, and I was ready to fight if anyone did. Anyway, my dad didn't get angry or anything, but simply said this: "When we'll be able to move out, we'll take everything and never come back ever again." Everyone agreed. Now, we had totally let this go because we know how crazy of a person that entitled lady and her husband are. But about a week ago, my mom received a call. My friend usually called at the time, so I thought it would be her, but it was the aunt. She had been drinking and was saying some senseless things. Here's how the conversation went. Aunt: "I have filed a police report against you, and you'll get arrested if you try to break the locks." Me: "That doesn't make any sense. We have just as much a right as you do over that house." Aunt: "You and your husband will not come near that house, and stop telling Aunt 2 crazy stories about not selling." Me, realizing she thinks I'm my mom: "We're not saying anything to her. You're insane." "And your husband, I will make him pay and he will suffer." At this point, I have had enough and just want to make her shut up. I have no respect for her now, and I just went off. I have never ever said anything bad to her before, but yeah. Me: "Okay, now I can't take it. If you ever call here again, you will face consequences. You are no longer welcome to call here, and I will straight up block you." So here's the thing. My sister is the kind of person who has had to shut this woman up a lot of times, so she thought I was her. My sister's 23. She calls me by my sister's name. "You jerk! Give the phone to your mom. This instant. She is my sister, and I have a right to talk to her." Me: "I'm OP. You just swore at a kid." Aunt starts stuttering. "No, you're lying. You can't be OP. I know it's not." So she has a very sensitive ego, and the thought of being told off by a kid just broke her. Me: "It is me. And now don't ever call us again, you idiot. Bye." I disconnected the call and blocked her. I don't know what scene will be created once we break the locks, but my mom and dad were proud of me for what I did.
The fact that I was the one who said all of this broke her completely. Dad was really angry that she swore at me and said I did good by not stooping to her level. Also, I was talking in front of my mom, and even though she knows I swear, she's never heard me do it, and I don't want to scar her. Entitled parents think they own the ski lift at a major resort. Long ago, when I was but a wee lad, so like a couple of months ago, I was skiing with a friend at a resort quite close to my home in the vastness of the universe. But that is besides the point of this story, so I will dive right into it. My friend and I had decided to take a break from our studies at our university and go on a pleasant ski trip. What fun! We had skied most of the day with fair weather, fresh snow, and a few lift lines. Unfortunately, there is one lift that is cursed. For lines plague this lift each and every hour of the 8-hour ski day, the dreaded T-bar, the terror of the beginner skier. Anyways, we pizza stopped our way to the back of the line and waited our turn like any pair of gentlemen would. During this wait, I glanced at the sign in the queue ahead and noticed it said, alternate, in very large red letters. This sign is of great importance to the story, so please take note. Anyways, as we wait, a group of 3, a large man in a blue 80s style ski jacket with the most appalling yellow boots, a woman with 3 braids of hair sticking from the back of her studded motorcycle helmet, and a kid who appeared quite young and seemingly unready to partake in the conquest known as the T-bar comes skiing down the slope. This strange group approached from our left, nonchalantly ducked under the rope indicating the formation of the line, literally pushed my friend backwards, and took place directly in front of us as a group of 3. Now, I'm not sure how much any of you dear readers know of T-bars, but they can only seat 2. So my friend and I are perplexed over this turn of event, and I grew more and more frustrated as we progress. So, to alleviate my growing anger, I say, "Excuse me, I believe you cut in line. The back is near the back." As if the back could not be any clearer. 80s daredevil wannabe dad. "Shut up!" Heavily accented with a deep southern twang. My friend, "How about you shut up and wait your turn?" The group did not reply, but the entitled leather-clad mother looked back at us and gave us the mitten. By that, we think she may have been trying to give us a mean gesture, but found it difficult to do so in mittens. We progressed. My friend and I are talking very loudly about entitled people and amateur skiers, blah blah blah. Then it came time to alternate with the line next to us. 2 lines filled with people become one, each line switching off. So naturally, the entitled gang skis right over the skis of the woman whose turn it was and off into the blue. Now singular line. This woman, who we will call Marjorie because that's a dope name and she was a dope lady, tells them off, and the crusty 80s macho man gives his classic response. Marjorie turns to us and asks, "Are they in ski school?" They must be. Ski schoolers have a special line to bypass standard crowds, but only under direct supervision of a ski instructor. Me. They must be. However, they probably just paid more for their lift tickets than we did. They didn't. We all pay the same amount. Marjorie laughs, and we proceed to have a nice conversation about how idiotic the people in front of us are, very loudly. Perhaps to the extent of overreaction, but hey, we were having fun. Their turn gets here, but wait, you can't have 3 people on a single bar, so the dad scoops his kid up and holds him. This is a no-no. The lift operators stop the lift and ask that they separate accordingly. So Miss Triple Braid Mom scoots back so she can take the following bar up the mountain alone. The operators turn the lift back on, and the bar swoops in and is placed on the kid's lower back. Now, this bar is perfectly leveled for the kid, but it barely comes to the father's mid-thighs. So not only is he stooped over like a gorilla, but he is now terribly off balance. The woman catches our bar just fine and seems comfortable, but as the hunchback of Mississippi, aka the yellow-booted cookie monster, is carried up the mountain, his position looks more and more precarious. It is worth mentioning, at this point my friend and I are securely holding onto the bar and being carried up the mountain behind Marjorie and her companion. So the fall. This is wonderfully terrible in so many ways. I will try my best to explain this in perfect detail. The father compensates for the bar by hunching forward, meaning his center of mass is forward. The ski's binding can only hold so much weight. Crack! The binding released the boots, as any safe binding should, and the man falls on his face into the snow. His feet swipe up into the air. Some of you may know this fall to be called a scorpion, and his skis slide backwards down the slope, parallel for some time, before careening off into the adjacent slopes. The mother, in a desperate attempt to avoid her face-planted partner, swerves rightward and ends up with her skis stuck in a rut. She immediately loses balance and tumbles to the side, still holding onto the bar. Her husband, who is now sliding downward, grabs her by the leg as she passes to the right. She holds for a second or two until she too falls, and now the two of them are sliding downward towards Marjorie, who gives out a resounding, "For heaven's sake," as her and her companion tumble over the pair of line cutters. My friend and I decide to get off here to avoid the calamity ahead. From the sidelines, we watch as the mess of people grows larger and larger as people look for lost skis, lost poles, and lost dignities. From here, my friend and I leave, but not before I notice the one person who made it through this gargantuan-sized mess, the kid of the entitled parents, casually being pulled up the slope, glancing backward at the mess their parents had caused. I don't work here. I don't even live in this state. I'll be referring to my grandmother in the German term for grandmother, which is Oma. Now this happened some years ago when I had just turned 15. My Oma invited me to Colorado to visit her for a while, and I was all for that since I didn't see her too often. A couple days into my stay, we went to buy some groceries. As my Oma was at the other end of the aisle, I was given permission to look for some cereal I might like. That was when I heard someone to the side of me ask for some help. Now, I am pretty shy and usually try to avoid contact with people, but when someone needs help, I gladly jump in to assist them.
"Excuse me, little miss. Would you mind helping me grab this bag of cereal? I can't reach it."
A little old lady got my attention. Sure, no problem. Now, I'm not considered amazingly tall. I'm just above average at 5'5", but this lady was barely 5 feet. Just to reach the bag of cereal, I had to stand on my tiptoes and reach for it, but I managed to get it down and helped her put it in her cart.
"Thank you very much, young lady. God bless you,"
she said. It wasn't an issue. Do you need help with anything else?
"No, thank you. My son is actually shopping with me, but he had to run out to the car to get his wallet."
Okay then. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I wave her off before turning around to go back to my Oma, who was still trying to make a decision whether to buy one thing or the other. It's been a while, so I can't remember exactly what she held in her hands. Then suddenly, a rough tap on my shoulder prompted me to turn back around. My eyes met with this middle-aged lady who was wearing workout gear. She shall be named Karen, as it is only right in this sub.
"Excuse me, do you know where the ice cream section is?"
Karen said. Seeing as I've only been following my Oma around and not paying attention, I could only respond, I can't think of where it is. I haven't been here before.
"Oh, you're a new worker? Shouldn't you be accompanied by another person before helping people?"
She seemed curious. Realizing what Karen is thinking, I say, "Oh no, I don't work here."
"You helped that old lady before. You can't lie. I saw it with my own eyes."
She couldn't reach the cereal, so she asked me since I'm taller.
"So you admit it?"
She let out an accomplished smile. I don't even know why she was satisfied with my answer. It wasn't like she really achieved anything. I did help her, but I'm not wearing a uniform. I was wearing a neon pink shirt with a cat on the front. Don't think that's uniform for any grocery store.
"You should ask yourself that. Why aren't you in uniform?"
Karen screamed at me. I don't have a uniform. I don't work here. After yelling that, I tried to walk away, but she stepped in front of me and bumped me back a bit. Is there a problem? My Oma strolled over due to my yelling.
"Stay out of this. I'm trying to get this idiot here to help me find the ice cream aisle."
Now, for some background about my Oma. She's an older lady who used to be in the Air Force, and she's not afraid to speak her mind. She could be pretty intimidating due to the fact that she's over 6 feet tall. Did you just call my granddaughter an idiot? What gives you the right to talk to her that way? She seethed.
"She's impersonating a staff member. She is the one in the wrong."
Karen went to grab me, but my Oma put her arm out in front of me. Are you joking or just foolish? Look at her. Where's her name tag? She's not even dressed in the right color for the uniform. My Oma didn't hold back her words. Like I was trying to tell you, I just helped the old lady get something that was too far out of her reach. I don't work here. I don't even live in this state. I'm just here to visit my grandmother. I gestured to my Oma. But, she said as she tried to reach around my Oma, attempting to make another grab at me, but a pretty big guy with huge muscles pushed his way in front of the lady and cut her off. "Lady, leave the kid alone. If you put your hands on her, I will have no issues with arresting you," he said as he pulled out a badge, signifying he was a police officer. Her face turned white before she tried to defend herself.
"She was..."
"Nope, don't say a word. Just walk away."
"It's not..."
She tried to speak again. "Ma'am, I won't say it again. Stop fighting with me and leave her alone," he said with a stern voice, making Karen turn and walk away with her cart. After she left, we thanked the man, and as he was about to reply, a familiar voice called out,
"What's taking so long? Did you find the oatmeal I forgot?"
the nice old lady said as she rounded the corner.
"Well, hello again, young lady,"
she said with a pleasantly surprised smile on her face. "Hello, ma'am." "Sorry, Mom. Some lady was pestering this girl. Didn't even know she was the one who helped you while I was away," he responded before turning to me. "Thank you for helping my mother. I told her to wait for me to get back, but she is a little bit stubborn." Nice old lady playfully slapped him on the arm, making us laugh a bit. After that, we chatted with the two of them for a bit and explained to nice old lady what had just happened before saying our goodbyes. Funnily enough, we later went to the ice cream aisle without Karen in sight. Never had as much satisfaction eating ice cream as I did reminiscing about Karen's face when the man showed his badge. Don't break the rules and then insist your staff enforce them. Whilst I was at university, I worked in our students' hall, basically a 2-story bar that was subsidized by the government. Because of the subsidy, it was the cheapest place in town, so we would get a couple locals come in. To prevent this, we were supposed to check everyone that had a student ID, but no one minded as the locals were usually polite and handled their booze better than most students. My manager, who was a local himself, would encourage locals to come and would either discourage ID checks or simply not inform new staff of the situation. He would often steal from the bar and would give free drinks to his mates. One night, he had a bunch of his buddies in town come in, having a drinking session at the bar's expense, paid for maybe 1/5 of the drinks, till way past closing and beyond our license. This resulted in the police being called for a noise complaint, and his boss, Hall's head, finding out. To cover his butt, he claimed that the groups were locals that we, the bar staff, had happily allowed to stay, and then fudged the accounting for the night to make up for the free drinks. Because of this, he himself demanded we check every student ID, and the head took away some of our employee perks. The Sunday after this all went down, the pool tournament guys come in. These guys rotate which bar they go to every week between a list of maybe 6 that have enough pool tables and lounge space. I personally had served them a half dozen times. They make their way over to the bar and the first guy is well in his 40s. Me. "Hey man, before I can serve you, I have to see your student ID." He chuckled and said something along the lines of, "Do I look like a student?" and proceeded to order. Me. "Look, I'm sorry, but I've been told that if you haven't got a student ID, I can't serve you." He started to realize I wasn't just messing with him and looked at the other member of staff who reiterated the point. Him. "Are you serious? We've been coming here for 2 years. Me. "Yeah, sorry. Manager is cracking down on the only students rule. I can grab my supervisor for you if you want." My supervisor was also a student and explained the situation, said he was sorry for the inconvenience and that if they had any complaints to call the head, my manager's boss, and even gave out a couple of his cards that were in his office. The pool guys left, which meant no one was really in the building, so we ended up closing early. Next morning, I awoke to my manager screaming down the phone at me, but it was my day off, so I hung up and didn't go to work as a customer till past noon. When I did, my coworkers couldn't wait to tell me what had happened. My manager had come in and had a shouting match with my supervisor in front of everyone, grabbing a morning coffee. The head had indeed received some complaints and scheduled a meeting with the manager that morning. Not wanting to face it alone, he took my supervisor with him, I imagine intending to throw him under the bus as much as possible. The head was upset. A, because all these 40-something men had called to complain on his personal number on a Sunday. B, because these 40-something men, by their own admission, had been coming here for years at the invite of the manager, whom they knew well. My manager tried to save face and claim they were associated with the university, that they were in fact lecturers, that it was the bar staff's failing to check for student ID all the time, and then turned on my supervisor, saying he had given them a bad reputation, cost them money by turning them away, and closing early as well as laying bare every other mistake he had ever made. My supervisor explained that it was never explained to staff that customers had to be students, as the manager actively encouraged locals to come in, that even lectures get a form of student ID, and explained to the head about the manager's drinking with his mates and the dodgy accounting he'd do. This led to the CCTV being checked. When the head saw that it was in fact the manager and his mates, that the bar staff rarely put anything through the tills at his request, suspended him on the spot. He then said the accounts would need to be audited and that he would likely be terminated and even prosecuted. After a surreal couple of weeks, we got our perks back. They hired a new manager and eventually they installed locks on the doors that could only be opened with a student ID. No idea what happened to the old manager, but by no means a loss. Entitled Mom tried to sue my grandma for her house. My grandma had 4 kids, all were girls. My mom is one of the 4, and Entitled Mom's mom was also one of the 4. My grandpa passed and left everything to my grandma. My grandma has a will that divides everything equally to each of her kids, my 3 aunts and my mom. Entitled Mom's mom, my aunt, passed away. Entitled Mom has 4 younger siblings and she's the eldest, and my aunt's inheritance, it included my grandma's current house. Entitled Mom and my grandma both live together. Entitled Mom is a horrible person. She drinks too much and goes out partying until 4 a.m. She has nowhere to live, so she ended up with my grandma. My grandma takes care of her kid as Entitled Mom goes out partying. Entitled Mom spoils her kid using family money, as in she asks everyone to get stuff for the kid and has successfully managed to get this kid 7 backpacks, 3 luggage cases full of clothing, which fits a whole closet in the house and the guest room. And this kid has managed to break 4 iPads/tablets, all paid for by my mom. On top of that, Entitled Mom is severely obese. I don't know how these guys are so obsessed with her. Normally I wouldn't judge, but she has a kid that she never takes care of properly. She has managed to also get money from different family members for surgeries, including tummy tucks and liposuction. She loses all this weight, pretends to be better, then reverts back to her bad behavior. So with all of that out of the way, let me get into what she was doing. She went to the courts, suing my grandma. More recently, she claimed that my grandma was senile. My grandma is old, but her memory is not fading. She does not have any diagnosed dementia of any sort. The only thing she has is bad hearing. Now, my grandma was upset by getting sued, but she is very family-oriented and continued to let Entitled Mom live in the house. It wasn't until Entitled Mom made the claim that my grandma was senile that she finally listened to everyone's plea to have Entitled Mom kicked out. So because Entitled Mom questioned my grandma's sanity and state of mind, they had a psychologist question both my grandma and Entitled Mom. Now, Entitled Mom was racking up money to bribe the judge to rule in her favor. It's a third world country and people are desperate, so normally a judge would easily take it. However, this judge didn't take it, and the psychologist absolutely grilled Entitled Mom. According to her brother, who got roped into it unwillingly, he waited outside the room and could hear Entitled Mom yelling and crying and having a tantrum. Entitled Mom came out of the room crying. One of my aunts took my grandma to the psychologist and waited outside. This was the same psychologist that interviewed Entitled Mom. My grandma came out feeling fine. She wasn't like Entitled Mom. The courts denied Entitled Mom's claim that day. Entitled Mom was kicked out of the house with her kid. My grandma is sad to kick out the kid because it isn't his fault. However, Entitled Mom has been leeching off my grandma long enough. Everyone else has hated Entitled Mom for years, and it was absolutely glorious hearing the news that the courts refused her claim to take my grandma's house and get the inheritance before my grandma passes. This isn't the first time Entitled Mom has tried to pull stuff like this, and I would happily tell the stories of how Entitled Mom managed to get so much money and gifts in great detail. What would you do if you had a family member suing your grandma? Let me know. Night of the Living Karens. A little about me. I'm in charge of 4 retail shops that cater to sporting goods that heavily focuses on hunting, but it's not limited to hunting. I put in a full 16 hours checking inventory, doing the billing and payroll. I decided to stop and shop for dinner at Walmart. I walk in wearing a black shirt that says, "My rights don't end where your feelings begin." I hit the pre-made salad and sandwich island. Nothing. I move around to the burrito area. I hear an ahem behind me. I figured I was in the way and moved out of the way. I hear the annoyed ahem again, followed by an irate voice of a wild Karen. "You should at least acknowledge me, sir." I look up and she begins to ask me if I am going to make any more sandwiches. I say, "Madam, I don't work here. I do know, however, the sandwich people are gone for the day. They'll have more in the morning." She storms off talking to herself about how I was a rude associate. I shrug and continue shopping for my dinner. I move over to the pizza section and there's nothing. Yet, while there, I get yelled at by another Karen. She demanded to know why I was out of uniform. I politely tell her, "Madam, I don't work here." I then mosey off before she can speak to me further. While walking away, I hear her gasp and explain loudly to someone that I was very rude to her. In the frozen food aisle, looking for at least a bag of french fries or tater tots or even a frozen pizza, I hear another ahem behind me. I push forward, thinking I am in the way again. I hear another ahem, followed by a hand on my shoulder. It's a Chad and a Karen. Chad is the one grabbing my shoulder. I push his hand off and turn to face him, telling him not to touch me and to get away from me. He recoils in horror and his Karen gasps. He demands to speak to my manager. I tell him, "I don't work here. You can talk to the manager all you want." I then walk away as they storm off to the customer service center. I finally find food for dinner, a frozen bag of veggies and frozen chicken strips in the next aisle. I move on and grab some trail mix for breakfast and lunch tomorrow for work. I head to the sporting goods section to look at their new materials. I can sometimes find cheaper items there than at my own shops. I buy 3 boxes of turkey pew-pew materials, the last 3 there. I hear a Chad behind me howl in disgust. "Why are you buying those? You work here. Paying customers first. Those are mine by right," he legit shouts. I turn and politely tell him, "Yes, paying customers first, and I am a customer who just bought them. I do not work here." His pet Karen chimes up.
You certainly do work here. I see you here all the time.
I explain, I don't work here. I am the owner of my business. I then walk away, leaving them fuming. The poor girl with the key to the pew-pew material cabinet chimes up. "He don't work here." They go off yelling at her about how she's covering for a thieving employee who's taking from customers to be a very rude and greedy person. I stop by office supplies and electronics to pick up some goodies. I then remember something from my list back in the food section. I go to get English muffins. I don't see the kind that I like, but I see the honey wheat ones and I grab 3 for the gazillion eggs I got at home. A wild Karen freaks out on me.
You're an employee. You shouldn't be hoarding stuff.
I politely tell her I do not work here and exasperatedly ask why does everyone think I'm an employee? I'm clearly not dressed like an employee. She comes back with,
Why else would you be in Walmart?
I walk away laughing and retort, You must be a Walmart employee too. Why else would you be in Walmart? I'm looking over jewelry when Chad from Sporting Goods walks up and reaches into my carriage, taking out my 3 boxes of turkey pew-pews. This was seen by Mark. Mark is the 62-year-old store manager who is being followed by no less than 10 people, all pointing at me, saying that I was the rude employee who they had been snubbed by. The Chad caught red-handed claims I stole them out of his cart. Mark listens to them and all their complaints while keeping a smile. After they each said their piece, he proudly declares to the group, some of which had people who didn't even talk to me, upset about my choice of attire, that I do not work there and never have, that I am a regular customer but I own a number of sporting goods stores, and that he had bought products for his nephew to hunt with directly from me and saw me walk out of the office of the store. Many grumble and accuse him of playing favorites and protecting his employee, vowing to complain to corporate and never shop there again before disbanding. Mark turns to the Chad, still holding the 3 boxes of my turkey pew-pews. You come with me. I follow Mark, and Mark reviews the camera footage to determine who the boxes belong to. I even provide my receipt because I never walk away from sporting goods without paying. Mark turns to me and asks if I want to press charges. I agree and wait for the police. Chad is arrested, and I fill out my witness statement. Mark does so as well and turns over a copy of the security footage and a photocopy of my receipt. I pay for my things, and Mark compensated me with 3 bags of trail mix for the insanity of the store. We joke and exchange some talk about our respective businesses and the chaos. I wave and tell Mark I'll see him later and to drop by the shop, that his new order had just come in, and I'll throw in a goodie bag for him to thank him for the extra trail mix. I have survived the night of the living Karens in one piece. Never cheat for your kid. So back in high school, I was classmates with a kid who, well, wasn't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. Take note, we were sophomores, grade 10, by now, so our batch had been together for 10 years.
It's a small private school, so we were all pretty tight-knit. However, his mom believed he was the perfect little angel who would outshine everyone else. In reality, he only got those since his mom would bribe their way through the system to let the kid have the benefits, such as instead of trying out, the mom would pay their way into sports teams so he'd get credit, only for him to be benched the entire game. The worst part was that as years went by, and to this day honestly, the kid bought into his mom's narrative and believed he was superior to many of us, with the mom making many outlandish claims. Among these tactics was something I'd noticed for a while. See, in the Philippines, instead of dividing the academic year in semesters, we had quarters, and within each quarter, we had 2 major long tests. Henceforth, I'll be referring to as LTs. Then, after each quarter, we had a quarterly exam. Henceforth, I'll be referring to as QEs. As each quarter progresses, the QEs would aggregate lessons from the quarters that had passed along with that quarter's lessons. Anyway, for some time now, our class had noticed that the kid would call sick on the day of the major exams, and then the mom would call on the kids in the higher bracket grading who were supposedly close with the kid to ask for the exact content of the tests so that they could study it for the retest. Now, I'm not exactly a star student. Okay, not at all. But my grades were decent enough for her to consider me within that call list. I mean, I hung out with the guy, and he was nice enough until his mom began inflating his ego. So during the 3rd QE for algebra, surprise, surprise, the kid calls in sick. Now this was pretty expected since everyone had already been betting on it. Sure enough, by evening, the mom calls up asking exactly what was on the test, each question and answer. I tell her off, and she starts spouting on about grades are important, and I'm just caring for the future of my child, and he deserves to be in the honor society, and you should be more charitable. Okay, whatever, lady. By this point, I'd had enough, so I comply. But with a twist. I end up giving her all the items of our 2nd QE. Without a thought, she begins typing it down. I can hear her frantic fingers on the keyboard through the phone and begins taking down each and every word I say. Here's the kicker. Our algebra teacher did not even include lessons from the past QEs. She thanks me profusely and how I'm such a saint and a savior to her son. Quit the sweet talk, lady. Anyway, kid comes in, takes the test, and oh look, he got an F. To add insult to injury, our teacher was the one who'd put in the numerical percentage, so we had a clear idea on how we did. Kid got a 35%. The mom confronts me and says, "You lied. What you told me wasn't on the test." I played the ignorance card and said, maybe he switched it up. They never bothered me again. He dropped from the honor society that year. People caught wind of the story and started doing the same thing. Parents, never spoon-feed your kids. It never works out well. We're in college now, and all updates on the kid's college life are non-existent. We don't even know if he's in college. Every time we have a reunion, he's evasive on the topic, despite everyone openly talking about their ups and downs on uni life. Last we heard, the mom was claiming her little Einstein was taking a double degree. We have a classmate whose uncle is a professor in the said degree, and he said he's never heard of the kid there. Karen expects me to hide my scar because she doesn't want to see it. I, 24 female, had a cancer scare a few years back, and I had a biopsy done on my upper leg. The scar has now faded, but it is still fairly noticeable, and it's about 7 centimeters long. Thankfully, it was only a scare and nothing came of it. For a while, I was insecure about it, and I stopped wearing skirts or leggings where you could see the outline of the scar. But now that I've accepted it's going to be there, I started to wear whatever I want to, and I realized that nobody even cares about it apart from the odd question that I get. We went to the beach yesterday as a friend group, and I wore a swimsuit. I was excited to get a tan, and my friend Anna brought her other friend Dana, who's 25. I've met her before, but I don't know her very well. However, I do know that she started a fundraiser for her mom, who is fighting cancer right now. Dana's family situation is quite difficult, as her father passed away recently and her mom has stage 4, and Dana is juggling a lot. I arrived earlier than Anna and Dana, so I was already in my swimsuit when they joined us. Dana was nice to me and asked about my new job. Then Anna went to say hi to the others, and Dana mentioned my scar, and she recognized it was a biopsy. She asked if I could wear a cover-up,
as it was triggering to her and insensitive of me, as I know her mom is going through it right now. I said no. I'm here to get a tan, and the cover-up will ruin that, and Dana didn't say anything else, but didn't talk to me for the rest of the day. Today, Anna texted me, telling me that Dana told her what happened, and while she agrees Dana's comment was weird, I should have given her a free pass as she's not in the best place mentally right now. I said it was really weird, and no, I wouldn't. I genuinely don't think I'm in the wrong, and I think that she's being really weird about the situation. Obviously, if I am in the wrong, I will apologize. Not the jerk at all. While I feel for her and what she's going through, it's absolutely not okay to ask anyone to cover a scar. If someone has a trigger, it's their responsibility to handle it, not everyone else's to change for them. You're at the beach. It's completely acceptable that you wear your swimsuit, and good for you for not letting your scar deter you from what you want to do. Am I wrong for not giving my cheating wife another chance? I'm 39 male, and my wife, who's 33, we've been together for 13 years. She recently went away on a girls' trip. I was not worried at all. I've never had a reason to distrust her. She's never done anything to give me a cause for concern, and it's not like she was even going abroad. She was just going to a resort half an hour away, for goodness sake. She went with her sister and a few other girls. She called me up this morning, and I didn't expect anything other than her checking in. She's only been away one night of a 3-night trip. When I answered, she was crying and incoherent. When I finally calmed her down, she told me that she had hooked up with someone there the night before. Supposedly, she met this guy who she approached, they flirted a little and danced together, and she thought that was as far as it would go. But he supposedly just charmed her into a kiss, which turned into making out, which turned to her asking him to walk her back to her hotel, which turned into them hooking up. The guy was supposedly 10 years younger than her, and she said that she lied and told him she was going through a divorce. She says she doesn't know what came over her, and she just wanted to see if she still had it, but got carried away. 14 years, married for 10, and we have a 7-year-old daughter. I want to leave her. She's begging me not to, offering marriage counseling, never going out again, never drinking again, etc. I've always been a one-chance sort of guy. I just told her to go buzz off, and I've been ignoring her since about 10 a.m. Now her friends and sister are calling me too. They apparently had no idea she'd gone home with him. They saw them talking but thought nothing of it. I just want them all to leave me alone. I told my mom about it, and she said I should think of my family, and that my wife seems genuinely remorseful and didn't try and hide anything, and she came clean straight away. That it's not like she had an affair, and that as bad as it is, this is the best case scenario. After that conversation, I feel like I'm insane. Am I wrong for not even considering forgiving her? Update. So my wife came home tonight after giving me the day to cool off. I asked to see the guy. I don't know why, maybe I'm a sucker for punishment. And of course, he looks like a superhero, so that's great. For the record, my wife is beautiful, like perfect teeth, works out regularly, etc. I'm not ugly, but I'm just a typical English guy. I'm not overweight, but could probably lose a few pounds, bit of a dad bod, etc. Still have a full head of hair, which is nice. I always felt so lucky to be with her. She was an amazing partner, an amazing mother, funny, intelligent, etc. I asked her to lay out what happened next to me in more detail. I wanted to catch any lies or changes in the story and test her consistency. She basically says that she was at the bar and the guy was stood next to her. They glanced at each other and she said, "Where did you come from?" to him. He asked what she meant, and she said he was the first handsome man she'd seen there. And that's how the conversation got started. As for her telling him she was divorcing, that happened when he glanced down, noticed her ring, and asked her about it. Apparently, once she said that, he went on to say, "Not like I care either way." What a gentleman. I asked her why she felt the need to see if she still had it, and she says that ever since she hit 30, she's been self-conscious of her aging. That when she spots a new wrinkle or something, it drives her to tears. She said that chatting to the guy made her feel young again, and she latched onto that. Also, apparently, the guy was there with a girl who my wife said looked like a younger version of herself, and the guy pointed her out to my wife and said, "That girl over there watching us has a crush on me," and laughed about it. After he had been talking to my wife for like 30 minutes, that girl had enough, walked over and kicked the table, spilling the guy's drink and then storming off. She says that the guy was picking her over the younger woman, and that drove her ego crazy, and that was when she decided to kiss him. I asked her why she even told me, and she said that when she woke up, she saw I had sent her a selfie of me and our daughter eating pizza, and it sent her into a nervous breakdown. That she was wailing and sobbing so loud it woke up her sister, and that's when she confessed. Her sister told her she was insane for what she did and wasn't very comforting, and then left the room mad at her, which made it worse, and that's when she called me. I have asked her to leave the house for a few days, and she's staying at her mother's house while I decide what I want to do. She begged me not to make her leave, but she did when I said it was the least she could do after blowing up our entire lives over wrinkles making her sad. As for my mother, she still thinks I should forgive her. For context, my dad passed about a year ago, and my wife really has been a rock for my mom. I cannot see her as much as I would like to due to my work, but my wife is a self-employed lash/nail tech and has a lot of free time, which she uses to spend with my mom to keep her company, do her hair, and have girly days to try and make sure she doesn't get lonely. Like I said, she was a perfect partner. No, I don't think my mom is a cheater or whatever, and she is very angry at my wife, but she loves her and she just wants everything to be okay. My daughter has no idea what's happening. She was already asleep when my wife came home and went again. She will just think that Mummy is still on holiday. I still have no idea what I'm going to do. Honestly, I'm still reeling, but that's basically everything. You are not wrong. If all it took were a couple drinks and a charming guy to get her to throw away her relationship and her family, it ain't worth it. Am I the jerk for hiding my wealth from my fiancé and his family? My fiancé, 28 male, is a doctor, and I, 28 female, work in finance. We both earn almost equal pay. We've been together for a year and a half, got engaged a month ago, and we're planning to have a wedding in 7 months. His family is full of doctors, while my dad owns a business. Mom is a stay-at-home wife, and brother, along with his wife, are high school teachers. My parents still live in a small townhouse my grandfather bought since the two of them grew up there, fell in love, had us, plus all of their friends live there. Basically emotional attachment. I never try to hide my wealth, I just don't show it off. For example, I prefer traveling by public transport because traffic and parking, while he drives a Range Rover. I have a Samsung, he makes fun of me for not owning an iPhone. I prefer not spending thousands of dollars on a dress that I'm only going to wear once. I also enjoy eating fast food rather than going to a Michelin star restaurant. I admit I never really told them how much my dad earns as I just felt it was unnecessary. Anyways, I think him and his family assumed my family doesn't have much money or something. After getting engaged, we went to his parents' house for dinner where they asked me what I plan to do in the future. I replied that I'm planning to quit my job after the wedding and work for my dad. They kind of got confused, saying why would I quit such a high-paying job, and that if I'm planning to push all the financial burdens on their son, well, they asked for a prenuptial agreement, and I agreed. A couple of weeks ago, we started planning our wedding. In my culture, I'm Indian and he's white. We have big weddings. That's the only place we show off our wealth. My parents were discussing about how they want to invite over 250 people from our side since I will be taking over the business and it's networking. How they want to have 2 weddings, an Indian and a white. Now, Indian weddings have a lot of functions spanning 3 to 4 days, all of which would preferably be hosted at 5-star hotels, or if we follow my dad, he wants to rent a castle. My parents demanded that if we want to have an expensive wedding, we will be the ones paying, to which my dad agreed, saying he was going to pay for everything, even if they didn't ask. As the wedding planning proceeded, my fiancé and his family realized we're spending way more than they can afford. I guess that's when it struck them that my dad's business isn't really as small as they expected it to be. They did a quick Google search and they found his company online and his net turnover every year, which is on the website and so on. Anyway, now his family is mad at me, saying, why did I hide the fact that I'm this rich? I'm pretty sure they want to cancel the prenup. I'm not going to do that now though, since it was their idea. Well, his mom is basically harassing me, saying I misled their family and that I'm a jerk for trying to hide my wealth for so long. So, am I? Edit. My fiancé has had a basic idea of my family's wealth. He knows about my dad's business. The in-laws did not. He agreed to the prenup when his mom brought it up. We had to talk about it and came to the conclusion that it would be good for both of us. Yes, he agreed to it despite knowing my family is wealthier. He is not on his mother's side. They are not close. I guess that's the reason he never told his family about my family's finances. He did talk to her and he's been defending me. It's just the constant remarks from her making me feel a little guilty, wondering if I did something wrong. I just wish to have a good relationship with my in-laws, but she's making it seem impossible. P.S. I know my dad's wealth is not mine. That's the reason I don't spend so much. As I said, I'm planning to quit my job and take over his business, hence my mother-in-law sees the assets as mine. Not the jerk. They thought you were a gold digger. You protected yourself and your family from gold diggers by not flaunting your wealth. You and your fiancé are well off. What's the issue? You are both protected by a prenup. I accused my fiancé of cheating on me and I left our house. My fiancé and I have been in a relationship for the past 6 years, engaged for the last 2 years, and are about to get married in November. On Monday, I woke up around 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom, and as I walked by my fiancé's side of the bed, his phone went off with a message. I got curious and I looked. The message was from a girl called Angie. The message said, "It was good to see you again, and I had a lot of fun. We should do it again sometime." I took his phone with me to the bathroom and read their chats. Nothing flirty, but there were a bunch of conversations of meeting up at her place, what they did that day, all the fun they were having. I remember yesterday that I wanted to do something with him, but he couldn't as his sister was in town and they had arranged to meet and hang out for months now. He did invite me along, but I didn't go. Didn't want to take away from his time with his sister. My thoughts immediately went to him cheating on me, and I started to bawl like a baby in the bathroom. My fiancé came rushing to the bathroom to see what was going on. I was not as quiet as I thought I was. When he got closer and asked what was going on, I told him to get away. He looked hurt in that moment and he took a step back. I gave him his phone and told him, "Explain yourself," through my tears. He took the phone, looked at it, and laughed. Then I saw him laughing. I got up and stormed out, locking myself in the spare bedroom. He came to the bedroom and through the door said he was sorry for laughing and tried to explain himself. Before he said anything else, I told him to leave. He then left to our bedroom. That morning, before he woke up, I grabbed some of my things and came to my sister's house. I've been here since Tuesday morning, too afraid to go home. He sent me a message that morning saying he heard and saw me leave, but didn't want to stop me because of what happened the night before. Again, he said sorry for laughing, but the situation was just ridiculous in the moment, and his tired brain responded with laughter. I sent back some hurtful things and that he's a cheater. He responded with, "Angie is a nickname for my sister, Angelina." He told me to confirm with his sisters if I didn't believe him, and told me to check Facebook and Instagram if I need proof, because pictures were posted of their meetup yesterday. He didn't say anything to the hurtful thing I said to him or anything. But he told me that the house is open for me to come back anytime I like to, and when I do, we will have a serious conversation about what happened and what will happen going forward. I'm scared to go home because I feel like he will be breaking up with me, and I don't want that. How can I handle this? I know I was wrong for the way I acted. I acted like a kid. I overreacted. How can I fix this? What can I do now? How did you not put Angie and Angelina together as the sister of the man you're about to marry? Especially when he told you he was meeting with his sister and invited you to go. Sorry, sis, but this is your own idiotic fault. Edit. Especially since y'all have been together for 6 years. You mean in all of that time, you've never heard him call her Angie? Even if you hadn't heard him call her Angie before, you knew that his sister's name was Angelina, which is obviously very similar, and that she was in town and he'd been hanging out with her, and you immediately jumped to assuming he was cheating? I'm sorry, but this is an insane reaction. If he doesn't break up with you, you need to get yourself into therapy ASAP and figure out where this knee-jerk reaction came from. In fact, you really should do that either way, because this level of trust issue in an otherwise stable 6-year relationship is not normal. Unless you're leaving out something huge, like past infidelity. OP. Nothing like that at all. He's always been loving and has never hid anything from me. We know the password to every device each other owns. My husband of 19 years doesn't trust me and can't get over me kissing another guy 23 years ago. I met my husband when I was 23. We're now 46, me, and he's 47. And we've been married for 19 years and we have 2 kids. The circumstances surrounding the commencement of our relationship are complex. I was unfaithful. It happened due to me being in a bad place mentally at the time we met. Edit. I'm not using this as an excuse. I was in the wrong. I was young and immature, and I wasn't ready for a committed relationship. I wanted to live the single life. My coping mechanism was denial, and I led a double life for a few weeks in the first few months after we started dating. I flirted with a guy at work, and I kissed him 3 times. If guys were interested in me, I teased. But other than the kisses I mentioned earlier, I didn't hook up with anyone except my husband. I was 23, I was stupid. Eventually I came to my senses and I came clean. My husband and I had fallen for each other hard and quickly. I wasn't ready for a committed relationship, but I was in love and wanted to make things right. He initially wanted to break up with me. I left the decision up to him. He asked me to cut off all contact with the other guys, and I did. I even cut off most of my friendships and social circles to demonstrate how sorry I was and to help regain his trust. And since then, I have not done a single thing to give him any doubts of my fidelity. I greatly regret my actions, and I would give anything to repair the hurt I caused my husband. He eventually said that he forgave me and we could move on together. We had a great relationship and married 4 years later. Fast forward 23 years, and he still brings up the events of our early relationship whenever we have an argument. He keeps trying to get me to confess that I hooked up with someone else. I didn't. Our marriage has disintegrated. We have 2 kids with disabilities, so the focus for a long time has been them. We have no connection, and we're not in a happy marriage. I now have early onset Parkinson's disease, so things are hard for me, but I still work and still manage the bulk of the kids' disabilities and the mental load. A year ago at Christmas, he blew up at me and said he wanted a divorce. He said that I was too controlling and he had had enough. The trigger was me staying up late cooking gingerbread cookies and then tidying up the toy room. Parkinson's keeps me awake at night, so I decided to get some chores done. It kept him awake. I didn't realize that it was such a problem. The next morning, as I was rearranging things in a different way than he wanted, he blew up at me. He got drunk, ruined family Christmas, and made a total mess of himself. The past got brought up again, and he wanted revenge. He stole Christmas money that was gifted to me so that he could use it for a hookup. I stayed calm throughout it all, tried to keep him safe and defuse the situation, despite the hurt I was feeling. He ended up not following through with the hookup, and he returned the money the next day. The next day, once he sobered up, he apologized. He said that he wasn't coping mentally, and he didn't mean what he said. I forgave him and supported him. He said he would organize marriage counseling, but he hasn't, and stayed sober for a year. He saw a counselor at work for himself twice, but didn't follow up on ongoing sessions. Now he has started drinking again. He doesn't do it to excess, but he has a few every night. We haven't hooked up in years, and we have no connection. We live parallel lives. He has his own hobbies and enjoyment. I manage the kids and their disabilities and try to manage my disability too, but I struggle to find the time due to all of my efforts going towards the kids and even him. My disease is so bad that even walking is a challenge, but I push on alone for my kids. I listen to any problems he has and offer support. I have lots of problems too, but I don't bring them up. I keep everything inside as I'm too afraid to let him in. My home life and my career are in tatters. I'm slowly losing everything that once made me me. I was in a bad place late last year and wanted to end things between us. He said he'd arranged counseling, but he hasn't, and we talked about what we could do to get back on track. But unless I initiate things, they don't happen. I see a counselor on my own to help me deal with my disability. Myself and the kids have a disability support worker who's single and spends a lot of time supporting our family. On Saturday, my husband invited her around to make kombucha together. I told him that I had to take the kids to the pediatrician and wouldn't be home. He still invited her, and she came over while I wasn't home. Then I found a text message from her for his birthday, signed with a kiss. Edit: she's close to our family, so this may have been an innocent thing, but I was upset and uncomfortable about these 2 things, and I told him so. He apologized and then brought up what happened 23 years ago. Again, it happens whenever we fight or whenever I bring up an issue. He even went through old photo albums to look for evidence of me cheating on him. He didn't find anything, as there's nothing to find. I feel like I've been the perfect wife and have stuck by him and forgiven him on many occasions, but he has still not forgiven me for something I did 23 years ago. He tells me he loves me, but I don't feel that he does. I think he's staying with me only for the kids and because I do all of the life admin. I pay all of the bills, organize all of the medical care for our kids, school admin, calendar, paperwork, etc., while holding down a job and dealing with a worsening disability. I'm so exhausted by it all. Can we ever recover from this? If he can't trust me now, will he ever trust me? He knew what you did before marrying you. He still married you. To continue to bring it up is not fair. This is why you break up when trust is broken, instead of making draconian boundaries and trying to rebuild it. My husband gave me an ultimatum. Stop being a people pleaser or we're getting a divorce. How do I even respond? My husband and I met 7 years ago at the same university, started dating a year after that, and we've been married now for 2 years. Other than this one issue, we get along very well and we're generally really happy and good with each other. I will admit that I do have people-pleasing issues. I'm not really sure why. I think I'm just overly nice. My husband and friends have told me I can be a doormat to people. I always apologize first, I don't tend to argue with people, and I've been known to go out of my way to do something not explicitly necessary. I know this about myself. My husband clearly knows this about me too, as I've always been this way. He's encouraged me to figure out why I am this way, and one time, a long time ago, he yelled at a friend of mine who was taking advantage of me in that sense, but that's about it. I'm also a pediatric oncology nurse at a really large hospital in a central city in my area. As you can imagine, my job is pretty taxing, emotionally and physically. I recently got a new charge nurse, and she's not very nice. I complain to my husband often about it. Last night, I was laying in bed, doing like absolutely nothing. My husband comes into the room, so stressed and angry looking, and snaps at me. "You need to stop being such a doormat, or I have to leave. Seriously, it's getting annoying." I was shocked and also confused, since we hadn't been talking about anything like that. I asked him what he meant, and his tone did make me immediately tear up. He's never yelled at me like that before, blatantly rude. He rolled his eyes and told me, "Your job, your friends, this marriage, all you do is lay down and let people walk on you." I said, "I don't mean to do that, and I'm sorry," but he just stormed out of the room after that. He left to work so early this morning, we didn't even have a chance to talk. He sent me a text this morning, and all it said was, "I'm sorry, we're gonna talk tonight." Like, what does that even mean? I'm so distraught, I can't believe that he yelled at me like that. What am I even supposed to say now? I mean, going to therapy if that's what he really wants me to do, but I doubt I'm gonna change. I've always been this way. Is my marriage doomed then? I have a best friend who is a people pleaser, and I notice she hates letting down anyone except for the people closest to her. She's comfortable disappointing and saying no to her dearest loved ones, but not her acquaintances or coworkers. As a loved one, it can make it feel like you are deprioritized in their life, and then you also have to watch people walk all over them to boot. I wonder, OP, if maybe you too are like this with your husband. My entitled mom tries to force me to clean my room on a Saturday. I, 16 female, live with my mom who's 47. We've always had very different ways of living. I prefer to let things get really messy and then clean them up, and she prefers to clean as she goes. As a high school student taking a couple of advanced classes, my week can get pretty stressful, and I figured out early in the year that I need something to look forward to during the week, aka what I call a rest day, where I do absolutely nothing at all but read, watch TV, and eat snacks. Right now, this day is a Saturday, as I have school during the week and I work on Sundays. My mom has never understood this. Today, Saturday, I agreed to do a couple of small chores, but stopped there. Earlier, she asked me to clean off my dresser in bed, a task that would take at least an hour, so I politely told her that today is my rest day and I'm not doing it. Also, my neck and arm are really hurting because I apparently did something while doing another chore, so I wasn't having it. She got upset and said that it wouldn't take me that long and I should just do it. I told her no, repeating that I need one day a week to just decompress and do nothing. She then started yelling that in that case, I need to pick a day to do cleaning. I decided on Wednesday, as that's normally my most free day of the week. She then started lecturing me that she doesn't want to hear me complain come Wednesday. A few hours later, she saw me on the couch watching a movie while she was mopping and said, "You know, I was planning on doing some of that cleaning together, but if you do it later, then it's just going to be you." She then started lecturing me again about how she doesn't get a rest day and kept muttering under her breath and trying to get me to do it today. So, am I the jerk for refusing? Edit. I think some people got the wrong idea, so I'll try to clear things up. Firstly, when I say stuff is on my bed, I mean the back of my bed, like the headboard. There's a built-in shelf. I don't eat in my room, so there's no food or dishes sitting out. Mold is one of my biggest pet peeves. My room absolutely doesn't smell, and there's nothing on the floor. My mom and I made the arrangement of rest days months ago when I realized my mental health was in decline. I needed something to look forward to. My mom supported this decision. Because of this, I do more schoolwork and chores during the week. The reason I estimated it would take an hour for me to finish is because a lot of the general clutter on my desk doesn't have a place to go. I have a bunch of books up there, and my bookshelf is full. Where do they go? I have some souvenirs from camp and my desk is full. Where do they go? Hopefully you can see the reason this would give me a lot of anxiety. I also had no idea that my room bothered my mom so much. Lastly, I don't completely disregard the rules of the household. If I make something for lunch, I clean it up, regardless of what day it is. If it's Saturday and my mom asks me to take out the trash or do some other small chore that will take less than 5 minutes, I'm in. And for those of you who are curious, the clutter has not spread out of my room. Hopefully, I gave some more context here. You're the jerk. If your dresser and bed are getting so messy it would take an hour to clean them, you need to be cleaning more consistently. Your mother shouldn't have to be hounding you to make that happen. Stop being a slob, and she won't have to micromanage when things get done, and you can rest when you please. She just doesn't understand? Oh honey, she does understand. And I promise, your mom never gets a rest day where she doesn't have to do anything at all, not even for an hour. You're the jerk, but you're 16, so it's kind of expected. You're the jerk. Clean your room. It's not cute to be messy and gross. All the TikToks about depression rooms have encouraged the idea that it's cool to live in squalor. It isn't, and it often makes the house smell. If you don't want to do it every Saturday, then keep it clean on a daily basis. When you move out, you can then be a slob to your heart's content. Not the jerk. My mom used to try pulling this crap on me too. Eventually, it got so bad that I straight up told her if she didn't lay off, I'd start spreading lies about her boyfriend that would totally ruin their lives. She started crying and asked how I could say such a thing. I told her straight up, you push someone far enough, don't be surprised when they bite back. Well, long story short, my mom got out of hand again about a month later, telling me to clean my cat's litter box, even though I had already changed it out twice that month. I held true to my word, and her loser boyfriend decided their relationship wasn't worth dealing with the backlash of me and my drama after I told everyone in the family some horrible things about him. Yeah, they were all lies, but I'm a good liar. Now my mom is depressed, but at least I can watch my anime in peace now and stay in goblin mode. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mom? Please let us know.
You ever start to wonder if those child-free people are onto something?
Am I the jerk for not letting my friend bring his service dog over? I'm male, 39. My friend, male, 38, recently got a service dog. It's a diabetic alert dog. The issue arises in that he wants to bring it to my house when I host hangouts and parties. I'm not much of a dog person and really don't want it in my house. It's a breed that sheds a lot, and I don't want to have to deal with dog hair in my house. Also, my kids regularly play in our yard, and I don't want them to encounter any of the mess that the dog would leave behind. I've spent the last 10 years in this house turning it into a place my friends, family, and I could hang out. I have a pool, I built a bar in my basement, those types of upgrades. I offer to meet out at a restaurant or someone else's place and to host less, but my house is the preferred destination among everyone else. I have amenities that others don't, and there are no expensive food and bar tabs at my place. I host a lot during football season and other major sporting events, with some general hangouts in between. I told my friend that his dog wasn't welcome. I offered to pay for a monitoring device he can use while at my house, but he didn't take that offer well. He let me know he wasn't happy and recently missed our Super Bowl get-together. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. It's your home. You can invite whoever you want. You have a no-dog rule. You actually made an effort to accommodate him. He hasn't always had this dog, so what was he doing before? He can ask and you can say no. Obviously, don't be surprised if your friendship changes or goes away completely. You're going to get a lot of "you're the jerk" votes just because it's a legitimate service dog, but people fail to realize you can't force your dog in private homes. That is your space to do as you please. My roommate's girlfriend tried getting me evicted, so I got her dumped. 7 years ago, I moved into a 4-bedroom house with 3 of my friends. I was the only woman among 3 dudes. One of the roommates was the owner's son. We were all friends in college, and honestly, it was the best 2 years ever living situation-wise. We all had different work schedules, and because I worked the earliest, 6 a.m., I had the only downstairs bedroom. My friend, let's call him Jay, who worked night shift and got home at 4:30 a.m., had the room above me, so that we didn't wake each other up coming home. During the week, Jay and I would eat breakfast together before he went to bed and I went to work. We had a jar in the kitchen we would all throw spare cash into, like $5 to $10 at a time each. That was for common groceries, like milk, eggs, bread, occasional house meals, and beer, because we were in our early to mid-20s. The rule was always that if you used the last of the common use stuff, you'd take from the jar to cover the cost and grab it from the store ASAP. When we grabbed pizza, or I'd make a meal for everyone, We use the same fund. This all is very important. About 5 months into the living situation, Jay met Karen and started dating her. He brought her to one of our game nights to introduce her to us and to get a feel for how she meshed with us. And all was fine when she thought I was only the girlfriend of another roommate. Because we were playing in the dining room right by my room, Karen saw me go in that room to grab a sweater early in the night. Then she saw my roommate, the one she assumed I was dating, go upstairs and grab his phone charger. The entire vibe changed and she started to ask me who I was dating. She was floored when my roommates confirmed that I lived there. I had my own room and I wasn't dating any of them. She saved face, said she was just surprised I'd want to live with 3 men, and we moved on. Cam, the owner's son, and I were the only ones that realized Karen saw this as a problem. After that, she started coming over right after I got off work and only leaving when Jay went to work. If I came out of my room to the living room, she'd ask why I was out there. If I was going to the kitchen, she would remark that I was being disrespectful to her and Jay and interrupting their time together. If I was talking to Jay when she got there, she'd start trying to kiss him. She even complained that I was ruining the mood for doing my laundry. Jay had made it clear that he knew she was a problem and had started pushing for them to just chill in his room. After a couple of weeks, she had gotten drunk before Jay went to work and we insisted she stay in his room and sleep it off. I literally brought her food and Tylenol because she was going to feel like crap in the morning. The next morning, Jay came down and started making breakfast for me and him when Karen came down and just started screaming. She woke up our other roommates. She accused Jay of cheating, accused me of having relations with all of the guys, then made the dumbest statement possible. She demanded I pay Jay back for the food he was wasting on me. Cam literally grabbed a $5 from the jar and slipped it in Jay's hand. Cam and I had a coming to Jesus talk with Jay. We both told him that if she couldn't deal with me living there, then she could no longer come over. Jay asked for a week to figure things out, trying to claim that she was just caught by surprise when she saw him making me breakfast and not thinking clearly. We gave him a week. In that week, mysteriously, the grocery jar was getting raided. We all noticed and talked about it. We noticed my clean dishes were appearing, still clean, in the sink. Little things were disappearing from common rooms and weirdly appearing in my room. Karen was being sweet. She was not exactly covert. Cam and I knew she was sowing chaos, but being curious where this was headed, we just watched. After a week, Cam gets a call from his mom asking if I had been going through something lately. Apparently, a concerned party had sent her picture after picture and story upon story about how I was trashing the house and stealing. Karen expected this to get me in trouble. Lucky for me, my landlord was actually worried I was not doing okay and wanted Cam to help me get through it. Cam told me, and I started planning my petty revenge. First thing I did was eliminate the grocery jar. I split up what was in it evenly between the 4 of us and told them that because of the raided stash, I felt it needed to go away. Karen didn't like this, but when asked why, she claimed it was rude for me to make a unilateral decision. Cam backed me, battle won. Then I started hanging with Cam in the living room every day. She complained, but Jay told her it's our house and we can do as we please. When she would go to the kitchen, one of us always asked what she was doing in our fridge. She stopped going in our fridge after 2 days. The weekend was here and we knew Jay had an extra overnight shift and Karen was planning to stay in his room so they could hang out the next day. Cue my biggest petty move ever. Just a little information. Cam and I met in college where we both studied theater, specifically acting. That Friday, we hung out in his room right next to Karen's. We made a bit of a show when Jay left and acted like he could not know that Cam and I were hanging out alone in his room. This caught Karen's attention. We started making sounds like shaking the bed. Within minutes, we got a text from Jay asking what we were doing. Cam replied, "Playing video games." After 10 minutes, we stopped shaking the bed and actually did play some video games on mute. When Jay demanded a FaceTime session, he saw exactly what he needed to see, me beating Cam in Mario Party. We cycled through this for a few hours. After a while, we decided to put the finishing touches on. We made a big deal about me needing to go to my room before Jay got home, and Karen took the bait. We could see the little bit of light being cut off in the slightly open door by her watching. Cam and I stage kissed, and I headed to the living room. Jay got back 10 minutes later to find me watching a movie, normal for me, and asked what was up. I told him I'd been up playing video games all night with Cam. He tells me Karen claimed that we were doing other things, and I told him we weren't. He goes to bed. The next day, Jay calls a house meeting without Karen. He tells us she's making claims of us having a relationship and hiding it from him. We say that she's full of it. We tell him about the frame job she tried to pull, how she went to Cam's mom to get me in trouble. Jay asks our other roommate if he heard anything from the bedroom. Bro doesn't even flinch and says, "I heard them playing Mario Party. That's all they were doing." Jay asked about the grocery jar. We all told him that we suspected Karen. The next day, he broke up with her for trying to turn him against us. He called her a liar and a thief. A few months later, he dated another girl. She was awesome, and they're married now. I was a bridesmaid. But the absolute best part? Karen being one of the waitstaff and seeing Cam with his wife and me with my fiance, telling them the story of how we had gotten rid of her. Yes, Jay knows the whole story, and he didn't mind at all. To address the reason Jay wanted to know if we were actually hooking up, he's the kind of dude that hates useless secrets. If Cam and I were hooking up, he'd be fine with it. If we were hooking up and actively hiding it from him like we couldn't trust him, he'd have an issue. That was why we played hard into the Jay can't know part. Though Cam says that Jay secretly wanted us, Cam and I, to get together. But nah. Karen spies on my phone call with my girlfriend. I, 18 male, have been dating my girlfriend who's 17 for about 7 months now. Tonight, her and I had a deep conversation about some relationship hiccups, and I shared personal family struggles that I typically only discuss with my therapist. As we finally got to a place we felt comfortable leaving things, I heard whispering in the background. When I asked my girlfriend about it, she adamantly denied anyone else being there. However, as I continued asking, she started crying. Just then, her mom pretended to come in the room and scold her for being up to try and cover up the fact that she had been sitting there for an hour. Turns out, her mom has been sneakily listening in on almost every serious conversation or argument we've ever had. I felt absolutely betrayed and I hung up immediately. Since then, both my girlfriend and her mom have been apologizing and trying to shift blame onto me. This violation of privacy has left me feeling super violated and unsure how to handle the situation. I do feel bad for hanging up so abruptly, but I just didn't know how to process what was going on. Am I the jerk for hanging up on my girlfriend after discovering her mom was spying during our personal conversations? Any guidance on how to navigate this would be greatly appreciated. Edit. I woke up an hour ago and watched all of the comments come in while eating a whole margarita pizza. To provide more context, throughout our relationship, my girlfriend has often joked about how her mom can get any information from her. However, I've witnessed firsthand how true this is lately. I've also noticed that my girlfriend doesn't respect privacy, claiming she needs a confidant because my situations are too much for her mentally, but then her mom knows everything I share in confidence. I also have tried not talking to her, but she pushes every time. Because of this, I've become extremely cautious about sharing personal details. They're both very religious, and while I share the same beliefs, it's been a contentious issue in our relationship. Her mom used religion to justify intruding on my personal life, citing the need to guide me if I'm sinning. My own family life has been challenging. I had to move out at 18 to escape. I talked to my own mother about all of this, and her response was to say that it was not the worst thing and I was overreacting, which is why I felt like posting. Her mom has expressed that she sees me as part of her family, which has led to her trying to control various aspects of my life, like dictating when I can drink coffee or imposing a bedtime. She's also shared my private struggles with her pastor and best friend, who've tried to intervene and fix me. I deeply care for my partner, but I can't envision a future where her mother's involvement is so intense in our lives. I plan to talk to her about this tonight, and I'll update you afterwards. How did mom listen in? OP. She sat in the room, and my girlfriend had me on speakerphone. I thought nothing of it because she has always just put me on speaker in her room, but now I see why. A foundation in relationships is trust. That's not there anymore, and it's okay to break up. OP. Thank you. It's tough because there's so much good, but this was just so violating. I keep thinking what happens if a few months from now we have to have a really serious conversation and her mom wants to be part of it. There are a lot of red flags here. I definitely recommend you speak with your therapist. OP. I think this is a great idea. Thank you. I just bumped our appointment up now. Update. 9 hours later. She just called me at work. She started the conversation by saying she thinks we should probably break up because she can't do it anymore. I'll be honest, I snorted. She asked why, and I responded by asking her if it was because she was scared to talk to me face to face or if it was because she just didn't want to deal with the fact that she messed up and hurt me. She said it was because I say everything is her fault. For context, I know I have a lot of problems because of a really hard home life and upbringing, and I acknowledge when I make mistakes. Last night was mostly me having to apologize and explain myself over and over. But this time, I flat out told her that this was 1000% her and her mom's fault. I then had to go because I'm at work and people needed help. I then got the text saying things like, "I guess this is all my fault," and "I deserve to sit in my consequences apparently." She wants me to come over to her house after work to sort things out. I think I'm going to see if we can meet alone in a public place to ensure privacy. I'll update after that. Final update. We ended up breaking up a bit after. She apologized in the end, but trust was gone.
Bruh, I'm sorry, but where do y'all find these people that you date?
I had an affair with a married man, and I still don't think I deserve how kind his wife has been. I didn't know he was cheating. He told me he was in his late 30s, never married, and there were no pictures of his family on his social media, so I trusted him. I was 18, but then I got pregnant. We weren't planning on it, but I was happy. I feel so stupid now, but I really thought we could build a life together. He tried to convince me to not have it, and when I said no, he just ghosted me entirely. I ended up finding his real Facebook account. Everything he told me except his first name was a lie. He's 45 and was married, and they had 2 kids, the oldest only being 3 years younger than me. I ended up messaging his wife. I'll call her Mary for this. She asked me a few questions, thanked me, and promised that she didn't blame me, and I thought that was that. When my son was born, I gave him my last name, and I told the hospital staff I didn't know who the father was because I was embarrassed about what I had done. 6 months later, Mary reached out to me. She told me the divorce was ongoing. She separated from her husband. He basically ditched their family entirely as soon as he was found out, which makes sense in hindsight, and wanted to know if I'd be okay meeting up to talk about things. I agreed, and to be honest, I basically had a breakdown in Starbucks while talking to her. I dropped out of college, my applications for government assistance were taking too long, my own parents wanted nothing to do with me, and I was at risk of losing my apartment. I felt like a failure, and I was considering giving up my son for adoption because I didn't think I'd be able to care for him. I still feel awful about her having to comfort me, but she did. She outright hugged me despite everything, and a week later she reached out again, saying she had talked to her kids and that if I wanted, I could come and stay with their family. I've been living with them for almost a year now. My room used to be Mary's husband's game room, apparently, but now it's me and my son's. It was very awkward at first, especially with the kids, but they never hated me for what I did, and after some adjusting, we've been getting along well. We hang out sometimes at home and stuff. We've had a couple of sessions of all airing out our grievances about their dad, and they've both come to me for advice. The youngest invited me to her drama club's Christmas play, and I don't think I've ever been so honored. They call my son their nephew instead of their half-brother, which I guess makes us maybe sisters, but I don't want to push that if they're not comfy, so I'm not putting a label on it. And Mary's just been an absolute angel. I've tried to get her to accept rent more than once, but she insists that as long as I'm saving some money, I don't owe her anything. She's helped with childcare, she buys food for us with everyone else, and she's promised that she'll fund a lawyer if I ever feel ready to go after her ex for child support. She called me my eldest when talking to a friend recently, and y'all, I had to go and cry for a while. She really does treat me and my son like family, and I think she's going to be his grandma. My son's going to grow up with the loving household I didn't have because this woman looked at me, the person her husband cheated with, and chose to open her heart. I still don't really feel like I deserve it. I haven't told them that because I don't want to be ungrateful for what this family's done for me, but I still struggle to imagine doing the same in her position. I don't understand how she can look at me without feeling hurt about what happened, let alone basically call me her kid, but I don't want any of that to change. I don't expect to live here forever, but Mary's been clear that I don't need to move out, and after rushing to get away once in my life, I don't want to do it again. For now, I'm working and saving up, and I hope to move out sometime next year. I might think about going back to school, but it depends on how things shake out. I don't think I could manage work, college, and my son at the same time, at least when he's still so young, and I really don't want to ask for any more from Mary and the kids. I do plan to go after child support eventually, but I'm afraid of having to face Mary's ex-husband in court, or at all to be honest, so it's something I'm working up to. I do help around the house. I'm on the chore rotation, and I buy groceries, etc. when Mary doesn't. I do pay Mary's eldest to look after my son on occasion. I've offered to pay Mary too, but like the rent, she insists I keep it, and she's paying for his daycare. For the anniversary, I'm going to have a friend of mine watch my son, and take them all out for a nice dinner as a way of saying thanks. I know it's the least I can do, but I'm trying. I might show Mary this post, but I'm not sure at the moment. It might not feel like it. I'm not sure how I'm coming across, but to me, I've been quite raw here, and I also don't want to put anything more onto her. But I will definitely tell her how I feel and make sure she knows how much she and her family mean to me. Am I wrong for being upset with my husband for putting his foot down? I'm 34, female. My husband, who's 38, has put his foot down, and I'm not feeling good about it. We've been married for 12 years, and they've been tumultuous to say the least. In the past, I've made comments about how many times we've done things he likes to do, like how many sporting events we've been to, many, and how often we do things that I like to do, like going to concerts, 0. In 2020, he bought me tickets for my birthday, but the concert was rescheduled because of lockdown, and once it finally happened a year later, we had moved out of state and couldn't take the trip, so we lost the money. Today I mentioned maybe we could go to a music festival near our home this summer with our tax return. I said we could just go for one day. The tickets are inexpensive at around $90 each for multiple shows, including a big-name headliner. Maybe $300, including drinks for the both of us. I really wanted to go last year, but we couldn't afford it. This year we're getting a nice return and thought we could swing it. We've discussed lots of options, including going on a trip he's been wanting to go on for a long time, and saving for our kids' birthdays and Christmas, as well as paying off a big bill that's been pushed for a little while and new tires for his truck. When I asked about the festival, he told me he already decided we were going to pay off a credit card with the remaining money. When I asked him why he didn't talk to me about that and how I wasn't sure we could pay the whole thing off, he told me he was head of the household and has made the decision. Then he kept talking. He said it's his money. I'm a stay-at-home mom of our 3 kids with a part-time job that doesn't bring in a lot. And he worked all year for it, and that he's putting his foot down. He said if I wanted to go to the festival, I could save up my money and go. When I mentioned again that I feel like we get to do things he wants often, he said, I bought you tickets, and then said he paid the same amount for the concert we couldn't go to as he did for the NFL game he went to last year, so it's fair. Huh? I didn't even get to go to the concert, but since he's been to 3 NFL games, 1 in 2021, 2 in 2022, 1 in January, and another in October of that year. My argument isn't even about the festival, although it would be nice if once in a while my special events could be considered, but that he just decided what he was going to do with the money without even talking to me about it. I explained that it really hurt my feelings that my opinion wasn't even considered, and I think in a marriage, it shouldn't be a dictatorship. It should be a partnership where we come to decisions together. I don't even think paying off the bill is a bad idea. I think it makes sense financially, but it's the way he talks to me. My money. I'm putting my foot down. He said he was sorry for hurting my feelings, but he was still going to do what he wanted to do anyway. Am I wrong for being upset about this? Update. I'm going to try to put a monetary value on everything I do and show him. The funny part to me is that he said he's the head of the household and our parents would all agree with him, but I've got 400 plus strangers agreeing with me. I wanted to add some context. I want to be transparent. I don't want to paint a pretty picture of myself just so my husband looks bad. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but my kids go to school full-time. They are 11, 10, and 6. I get the kids up in the mornings and get everybody ready. Breakfast, make sure everybody has what they need, snacks, etc., and then do the school runs to 2 different schools. Once I get back home, 2 hours after I've woken up, it's cleaning, taking care of my pets, grocery runs, errands, etc. Maybe once 2 weeks I do a little thrifting, and once or twice a week I see my sister. I very rarely go anywhere when my kids are not at school. My job is in childcare, and I have a toddler come to my home about 4 days a week, 6 hours a day. The toddler comes in the afternoons, about an hour before my kids get home from school. 2 of them ride the bus, and the 3rd gets picked up, toddler and kids in tow. Once I'm home, I tend to the toddler, nap, etc., and start dinner. I make all of the food, 99% of it, serve dinner, dishes, and tending to and feeding the toddler while continuing to care for my own kids. Oftentimes, my husband is just around, in the bedroom or playing PlayStation. Sometimes he pitches in. Weekends are spent hanging out while I still cook the meals and facilitate playdates, friends, etc. My husband has BPD, and if anyone has had experiences with that, you know how difficult it can be to navigate. And yes, it resembles narcissism. I have no idea what's on the credit card as I haven't used it in over a year. Writing all this out makes me feel like it doesn't look like much, but I know how much work and time goes into each individual thing. A lot. I'm tired and sore at the end of every day. I'd love to get a job while he takes over some things, but I fear he'll let everything I've worked so hard to keep together slip, and things in the home or with the kids will fall apart. Basically, I don't trust him 100%. I have plenty of reasons why not. Maybe that's a control issue I have that I need to work out and talk to my therapist about. But after years of realizing he just doesn't have the emotional capacity that the kids need, it's hard to let go. I've gotten jobs, been hired on, at multiple places in the last couple of years, and it was always some excuse as to why I couldn't or shouldn't work there. He had overtime, so who would watch the kids usually? I would like to get a part-time job while my kids are at school during the day, but the amount of sick days my kids have had this year have made that impossible. It would be on me to navigate arranging childcare and schedules, and as mentally and physically exhausted as I already am, I don't think I can manage that too. I don't know if I've given enough context, and I'll be happy to add more if needed. I know the door is closing on my marriage, and all of your comments just helped me see that even more. It's been over a long time. Maybe I'm wrong for holding on to nothing but dreams of what should have been a happy life. You are not wrong. Paying off a bill is a better choice. He should also be skipping the NFL games if there are bills to pay. But those types of decisions should be made together. It's likely that there's a pattern of him disrespecting you because he knows your job doesn't bring in much, and it would be difficult for you to leave him. You need to put your foot down and require he treat you respectfully and as an equal partner. If he doesn't respect you enough to do that, you need to reevaluate your relationship. Or put your foot down and ask how he will adjust his hours so he can take on 50% of the childcare and housework so that you can earn your own money. Because it's not his money. Being a stay-at-home parent is a decision made by both partners, and it's based upon both partners working while only one earns money. You're working just as much as he is. You doing what you do is what allows him to earn his money. Could he go to work every day if you weren't doing childcare? Is he fine with spending 4 hours a night doing housework, homework, and organizing kids' things that you do during the day? He is making the responsible decision. Both of you have recognized that there are bills that need to be paid off, and this will only haunt you in the future. Many people would put their foot down over a matter like this because it impedes any future plans for everyone. About money, men and women do this all the time. It's why financial matters are the most common cause of conflict for couples. People on Reddit will call for a breakup and divorce for everything, so take these comments with a grain of salt. You are in a marriage, keep communication open, and make your concerns known if you want to work it out. I think you failed to read the part where the husband told OP that the money was his, that he was head of the household, and that he would do what he wanted regardless of how she feels. It's not about him paying off a bill. He sounds like a jerk. Total cringe. Am I the jerk for keeping my word about not letting my sister into my daughter's life over her choice of a baby name? My sister Kelly, who's 28, and I, 30 female, have never gotten along. Let's get that out of the way right now. I know my judgment is probably biased because of this. Ever since we were kids, she would always try to copy or one-up me. For example, in school, she'd join every club or sport I was in and try to beat me at it. Debate, chess, tennis, etc. Kelly would always throw it in my face that she had better friends than me, which really meant she was in with a popular crowd while I preferred to have friends with people that I actually liked. Our mom went to an Ivy League school, which I also applied to and was accepted. And when it was time for Kelly to apply to colleges, she applies to an even more prestigious Ivy League and was rejected. She threw a big fit about not getting in when she was a much better student than me. Anyway, Kelly and I were both pregnant at the same time. I was pregnant first, and once my partner and I found out the gender, we decided to use a name that I've loved since I was little, Josephine. Kelly knows that this is my dream baby name, and I thought that she'd have enough respect to consider this one name as off limits, but no. 2 weeks later, she and her boyfriend announced that they were pregnant with baby Josie. I called her up to ask if she was really going to name her baby the same name as mine, and she smugly said that I was free to change my baby's name because she hadn't been born yet. Never mind that she was far less along than I was. My partner and I stuck to our guns because we honestly didn't think she'd go through with it and welcomed baby Josephine into the world 6 months ago. We announced the birth on social media, and to my horror, the very next week, Kelly posted a picture of some custom blankets she had ordered with the name Josie on them. For her little Jojo, which is a nickname my partner and I used for our Josephine in our post. I called her again to basically tell her to change her plans for her baby's name because my Josephine had already been born and her name is on the birth certificate. I told Kelly bluntly that I was calling her bluff, and she told me that she wasn't bluffing and that I was free to change my baby's name or else there would be 2 Jojos in the family. I called her a huge narcissist and told her that she wasn't welcome in my baby JoJo's life if she went through with stealing my JoJo's name. 2 weeks after my birth, Kelly gave birth to her baby Josie. I didn't contact her at all, not to offer support or to tell her off for stealing my baby's name. I figured that she was in recovery and that I shouldn't stress her out immediately after giving birth. Last week, Kelly called me up because she wanted to come over and meet my baby now that she's 6 months old. I asked her if she had changed her baby's name, and she confusedly said no. I reminded Kelly of what I'd told her back before our babies had been born, and she called me an unreasonable jerk. Now the whole family is up in arms against me for not letting my sister meet her niece. Am I the jerk here? I don't see a problem with going no contact with someone who seems extremely committed to your unhappiness. Not the jerk. This seems like a last straw in your relationship. Tell your family Kelly won't meet your daughter and they won't see her either unless they stand down. The time for them to be up in arms was when Kelly came up with her crazy plan, and that time has passed. Seriously, how could your parents not call her out on this? How could her boyfriend not? Am I the jerk for breaking up with my fiancé just because he's dumb? I, 25 female, grew up in a pretty strict Asian household where academics were everything. I have 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's, all from the most prestigious colleges. The only activity I was allowed as a kid were piano and fencing, since they would look good on college applications. So when I met my ex through mutuals, it was like a whole new world for me. He was so much fun, an extrovert who let his intrusive thoughts win kind of guy. Being with him was an escape from reality to me. He would always try and explore different places, activities, food, and so on. To conclude, he was the complete opposite of me, which I was attracted to. After a year of dating, he asked me to marry him during a surprise engagement party where he invited around 50 people, all his friends. Well, in the heat of the moment and everyone shouting, I said yes. When I recollected and organized my thoughts about how I feel about living with him, I just couldn't imagine it. I work at an MNC and I have a high-paying job, which in return causes a lot of pressure and work stress. When I try to talk to him about my day and work, he's always so disinterested and thinks I'm boasting about my job. A random instance I remember is when I was talking about the gas prices increasing because of Ukraine, to which he followed up asking, "Who is Ukraine?" I like having conversations about current events, politics, or even a book I just finished reading, but he has absolutely no interest or even tries to gain knowledge about anything. I also realized we never really had a real conversation except for gossiping about people, I suppose. Well, I told my fiancé about how I don't see myself spending the rest of my life with someone I can't hold normal conversations with. We broke up, and it was pretty peaceful. Or so I thought. The next day, he brought all of his friends to trash my place, go off on me, saying I always look down on him, and that I'm a jerk for leaving him because I think he's dumb. So, am I? Not the jerk. It sounds like you broke up because you have nothing in common. It's important to have a partner you share something in common with and can have regular conversations with. They say opposites attract, but research shows that the best relationships are ones where the partners have a lot in common. I think opposites do attract, but I see it as more strengths and weaknesses rather than core values or interests. For example, my girlfriend is extremely organized and punctual. She's like a sentient planner with her level of foresight and scheduling. She has saved me from my ADHD scatterbrain more times than I can count. However, she's terrified of social interactions with strangers or large groups. I feel very comfortable in social situations, so I do most of the heavy lifting when we go out. At the end of the day, we both value loyalty, honesty, and open communication. We lead similar introverted lifestyles. I love my video games and TV. She loves her phone and TV. We love binging shows together and going to the movies. I think opposites can attract, but there needs to be some similarities at the foundation of the relationship and character traits, especially when it comes to conversation. Everyone sucks here. His reaction to the breakup makes him a jerk, and your obvious "I'm better than other people" attitude makes you a jerk. So 2 jerks breaking up was the correct thing to do. My girlfriend of 7 years told me that either we have kids now or she's breaking up with me. My girlfriend and I, we have a rocky relationship. When it's good, which is 98% of the time, it's great. We have so much fun together, we laugh a lot, and we even started a business together. But when it's bad, it's really bad. We typically have problems one weekend every month. When my girlfriend goes out and drinks, she gets really mean. It's not uncommon for us to get into an argument and for her to walk out of the restaurant or bar and just leave me there. When this happens, she'll ignore my texts, calls, and I won't see her until she decides to come home, sometimes which is very late at night, 4 a.m. She also calls me names. We always make up the next morning, and I keep most of it to myself. If I bring it up, she usually says that I'm the problem and I'm controlling and I drive her to do these things. She's given me an ultimatum to have kids or break up. It's been 7 years of dating and 6 years of living together. I've told her that we shouldn't have kids when our relationship is so volatile. She gave me until tomorrow to make a decision. But how can I have kids and get married when one weekend a month she's so mean to me? We don't have any trust because she'll walk out on me in an argument, go to a bar, talk to other men, etc. She won't fully acknowledge her actions. I've told her over and over that I need at least 6 months of proving to me that we can have a good relationship without feeling hurt. There's so much resentment that when I bring up the things she says, she places blame on me. About 2 months ago, she had a terrible health scare and had to go into emergency surgery. I spent 7 days and nights with her in the hospital. I didn't leave her side once. I thought the experience was going to solve our problems, but it hasn't. Also, out of the blue, 2 weeks ago, she said she's going to sign a lease for an apartment because she doesn't think I'm ready for kids. I asked her not to move out and to give me 2 weeks. The 2 weeks are up. I understand she doesn't want to waste any more time, and I don't want to waste her time either. But I'm conflicted and confused. I'm scheduling a call with a relationship therapist for later today, but I haven't told friends or family about this. I'm leaning towards saying something to the effect of, I love you, and I don't want this to end, but I can't start having kids and get married when we have these problems. I think the problems should be fixed first. If you can't wait for that, I guess we have to break up. Well, it's probably time to break up then. You've been together for 7 years. If you're not going to have kids now, when's it going to happen? It's just going to keep being postponed. And you're right. Why should you have kids with her when your relationship is so dysfunctional? It's been multiple years of a roller coaster. If things haven't stabilized by now, it's not going to happen. Kids won't save your relationship. It thickens the plot and makes things more complicated. You need to deal with this toxic behavior on her end. It's probably best to break up and get it over with. Seems like everyone wins with the breakup. Break up with her. Listen, bro, it's pretty clear from your post that you don't want to marry her and don't want to have kids with her. Maybe you told her the issues you had, maybe you didn't. But regardless, you're here now. She gave you an ultimatum that you're not interested in accepting, so the best you can do is try to stall, which is what you've been doing with the counseling thing. Nah, your relationship has hit its expiration date. The only thing left to do is the logistics of untangling your lives and separating. Well, what do you think? Should OP do relationship counseling or just break up with her? Please let us know. Bruh, I really hope he lets her become someone else's headache. Am I the jerk because I don't want to take care of my husband's ex-wife? I, 32 female, have been married to my husband, who's 40, for 2 years. He brought 2 kids into the marriage, and I have one of my own. We don't have any kids together. My husband was previously married and has been divorced for about a decade. His kids live with their mother nearby, like 20 minutes away. Initially, she showed some petty behavior, but nothing major. She's very entitled and judgmental. She often makes snide remarks about my working too much, etc. She would make contrasting statements about me and my husband's marriage compared to hers, to the point where one day I told her that her relationship with my husband was over and she needs to move on. My husband backed me up and she stopped her ways. I honestly don't think she's over him, but that has nothing to do with me. She's unemployed since getting fired 15 years ago and relies on her kids to get more time and money from my husband. She's been unwell lately, not managing her health effectively, and has been using her condition to collect sympathy points from my husband, asking him to be there at doctor's appointments, of course to watch the kids while she's there, asking him for rides constantly because she doesn't feel safe driving. She always wants to tag along when we take the kids out. She has a boyfriend, by the way. Lately, she's been suggesting to my husband that she isn't well enough to take care of her kids. Right now, they have shared custody, and they're with us every other weekend and during school vacations. She told my husband that I should sell my house, which I bought before we even met, to downgrade and buy a smaller home and build her a tiny house on the land close to us to provide more support for the kids and her. I was flabbergasted that she would even mention this to me. I couldn't understand why I needed to sell my house to accommodate her. I offered to have the kids live with us, but she declined, stating that she prefers to stay close to the kids and doesn't trust us to raise them. She has a boyfriend and family nearby, but insists on receiving care only from us, even saying that my husband made vows to her before he made vows to me. I feel totally disrespected. I don't want to sell my house, and I don't want to have a grown woman freeloading off of me. I believe she should rely on her existing support system. Most of my in-laws say that I'm being selfish and I don't need such a big house anyway. My husband hasn't expressed anything either way, which is annoying. I want to stand my ground, but I'm starting to feel like a jerk because she is sick. Update. Thanks everyone. I think I need to stand my ground here. I'll speak with him tonight and update. I'm really tired of his ex, and I don't think she should be the main character in our lives anymore. I want to put this here because a lot of people have been asking why my husband won't speak up. This was my response. He says he doesn't want to be a deadbeat father because his father was, and she often threatens to not allow him to see them. Even at our wedding, she would not allow the kids to be there unless she was also invited. Update. I spoke to my husband and told him that there was absolutely no way I was going to sell my house. I told him that my house was an investment that I planned to one day pass it to my kids as an asset, that he and his parents and his ex are dead wrong for suggesting that I sell it. I said that if his parents have something to say, then they can build a tiny home for her on their 10 acres of land. He agreed and said he's been feeling bad that he was entertaining the idea, but his ex was guilting him because of her condition. She has MS. I told him that he will no longer be supplementing her lifestyle and no more running errands. I'm his wife and I should be his priority. I told him that he has to call her in front of me and tell her this. He called her and told her that he will no longer be used as a placeholder for her boyfriend and she needs to stop trying to manipulate everyone. She said it was unfortunate that I was acting insecure and that I was interfering with their healthy co-parenting relationship. She said that I was young and immature and should consider their kids, and she knew that this would happen one day. I told her that she needs to stop being lazy and take care of herself and her kids and stop freeloading off everyone else. I told her that she needs to be focusing her attention on her current relationship because that's her best shot at a decent future, because we are pulling back effectively immediately. She immediately started crying and said she was feeling sick and needs to go to the emergency room and needed to end the conversation to protect herself and her health. We couldn't really get into outlining all of the boundaries before she just hung up and blocked both of us. I typed out an email and copied all parties involved and sent it to her. I'm so mad right now, I'm seeing red. I want to provide clarity. She was recently diagnosed maybe a year ago. She's been manipulating since I met her, but she has been more invasive after her diagnosis. She has been out of work for 15 years, which is the only reason that I call her lazy. She's on every government subsidy we could get her on. I helped facilitate this when she was diagnosed, but she keeps wanting and expecting more. I admit that I felt bad for her for a long time, which is why I let it go on for so long, but asking me to sell my house is beyond my limit. This is extremely weird. Your husband needs to be 100% on your side. He needs to shut this down now, not you, him. Otherwise, he's in on it, and you really need to look at this as you versus everyone else problem. Not the jerk for not wanting to help your husband's ex. Any family members who call you selfish can step up and take care of her themselves. Am I the jerk for telling my husband to deal with it when suffering from a kidney stone, like he told me while I was in labor pain? So I, 26 female, and my husband, 32 male, welcomed our baby boy about a year ago. It was my first pregnancy, and honestly, it was pretty rough. The labor pain was incredibly severe. Still, I wanted natural delivery, so I went through all of it. Due to the severe pain, I couldn't control and I was screaming and crying. My husband, who hasn't slept the whole night, got agitated by the screaming and said to me to just try to deal with it instead of screaming like this. I honestly cried because of his comment and the pain. The baby was born a few hours later and we sort of forgot the incident. A few days ago, my husband felt sudden pain in his stomach and it only got more and more severe, to the point where we had to take him to the hospital at that moment. The doctor did a few checkups and told him that he had a kidney stone and needs treatment. Since the pain was so severe, my husband got painkiller shots. Even during that, he was screaming at the top of his lungs. At that moment, I got petty, and since I was already fussy from sleeplessness due to taking care of a toddler, I said to my husband, "Can't you just deal with it for a while? Why are you shouting so much?" He was shocked and then later remained quiet. When we went home, he was still quiet. And when asked, he told me how insensitive I was and how he felt so bad. To this, I reminded him of the time when he said the same thing. Now he's so angry and calling me petty that he didn't mean anything, but I had malicious reasons. So, am I the jerk? Edit. To all the people asking if we love each other. Yes, we do. It wasn't like I held on to what he said to me. However, in that moment, everything was so similar to that time that I remembered that incident, and in the spur of the moment, I said it to him. I did not ask him to go out of the delivery room or make a big deal about it that time, because even though I was hurt, I understood his sentiments as well. Stress from work, sleeplessness, overwhelming feeling of being a parent for the first time, and a constantly screaming wife can really mess with a person. I didn't want to keep him away from being the witness of his kid's birth or ruin his later moments with the baby just because of that. Was it a childish thing to say? Yes, but that does not mean we didn't fulfill our responsibilities. He took care of me and did everything a dad should, and I did everything for him likewise. No, we are not going to divorce each other for such silly banters. It's not like we always fight or act petty. If I wanted to be real petty, then I could have done a lot of other things as well, but that wasn't my intention. Yes, we have childish conversations sometimes, but they are usually funny banters. It's one of the very few times where I wanted to come and get some insight. Update. I went to my husband and apologized. He said I don't have to, and he was not angry, just embarrassed. We talked about it and actually found it quite funny. Sure, he was acting like he was angry, but that just means that he rolled his eyes at me and had an expression like, "Are you serious?" So yeah, he doesn't hate me and neither do I hate him. I will be preparing a nice dinner for us all since the past few days have been so exhausting, and my husband needs a good treat as well. So yeah, nothing too crazy as some of you expected. Have a good day, people. Edit 2. It wasn't really about which pain is worse. Everyone has their own experiences. To everyone who shared their experiences, I hope you are all in better health now. I could see my wife doing exactly this sort of thing if she were in that situation, so I'll go with not the jerk. Was it a mature or a kind decision? Not really, so I suppose it makes you a little mean. But hopefully he will quit wallowing in self-pity and realize that dismissing the pain of someone he claims he loves is beyond callous and was wrong of him. You were petty, but you were justified. Tell him your pettiness stems from how you have never forgotten how he spoke to you when you were at your most vulnerable. How'd he like them apples? Not the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know.
Hey Reddit boy, didn't you just have a kidney stone a few months ago?
I sure did. So I'd record for 10 minutes, then go lay down and roll around in agonizing pain for 10 minutes, and repeated that cycle for half the day.
Wow, now that's dedication.
Am I the jerk for controlling what my boyfriend eats? I, 23 female, have been dating my boyfriend Jake, who's 24, for 4 years. I'd say we're a very happy couple overall, but lately this argument has come up that's divided us. He's always had unique tastes. Cereal with orange juice instead of milk, mayo and butter sandwiches, and raw onions have been the worst culprits. I'll put up with these. We all have our quirks, right? Well, 2 weeks ago, he started eating garlic as his midnight snack. Raw cloves of garlic. I can't share a drink with him without it reeking of garlic somehow. And kissing him? It's like shoving a clove of garlic straight into your mouth. He swears that he's only eating them because he didn't want them to go to waste, and that he would stop once he finished the head of garlic. But just when I finally thought it was over, I caught him sneaking a second one into the kitchen last night when he thought I was asleep. I confronted him about his secret grocery trip this morning, and he got really defensive and denied it. I'm trying not to be a nag here, but it's really wearing on me. The garlicky aura surrounding him makes me want to avoid him at all costs. But I don't want to do that because he's my boyfriend. Am I the jerk for giving him an ultimatum of no more eating garlic? Edit. His diet seems healthy overall, and he goes to the gym a lot. He had a doctor's appointment not long ago, and I don't think anything came up, but I can ask him to go again. If you really can't stand it, convey that. OP. I tried to explain when I talked to him this morning. I told him that the other weird food combos don't really bother me as much, but the particular smell of this one is too much. He said that I just need more time to get used to it, but it's been nearly 2 weeks already. Maybe if you eat more, you'll get used to it. And maybe he's suffering from a vitamin deficiency and should go to a doctor. OP. I tried that too. When he first started, I ate a bite just to see if it was actually good, but I just can't bring myself to eat anymore. He's not talking to me this morning, but I'll try texting him tomorrow about a doctor's appointment. As for his usual diet, besides the occasional unique food choice, I think he's pretty healthy. Is there anything else weird going on? We haven't been going out on our usual dates for the past 2 months because he's had to leave to take calls a bit, but that's just because he's been swamped at work. Nothing weird. His busy season is almost over though, which is good. Update. Yesterday evening, I tried texting him about seeing a doctor like you guys suggested. He never replied. I guess he still has me muted. I spent the night tossing and turning. I kept going over what I was going to say to him when he got home. Not that it mattered, because he didn't come back home last night. That worried me, so this morning I checked his location. He stopped sharing it with me through his phone, but I guess he forgot I can still see it on Snapchat. It showed him about 30 minutes away at some house off of a random back road. I was pretty confused and honestly panicked. All of his friends that I know live in the city. I tried to call him again, but was sent to voicemail, so I drove over there to see what was up. When I got to the house, I noticed a woman about my age gardening in the front yard. I was pretty upset already, so I flat out asked her if she had seen my partner. She seemed surprised and asked if I meant Jake. She invited me inside, and there he was. Apparently, she's into gardening, and they met at her stand last fall when he went to stock up on onions at our local farmer's market. They hit it off and have been seeing each other for the past 6 months and made it official back when his busy season started. She said lately she's been giving Jake the garlic she grew last summer since it's going to go bad soon. That's why he was so insistent on eating it by himself instead of cooking it into a shared dish like normal, and why he's been eating onions like an apple instead of letting me use them on my sandwiches. He didn't want to give me her presents because, in his own words, she grew it with love for me, and if you ate them, you would have known. At that point, I saw red, so I just left. Since then, Jake's been blowing up my phone about how we can fix this and that he won't do it again, but I'm so over it at this point. Just when I thought my life couldn't get any worse, while I was moving his stuff to the curb, I found his stash of garlic. Shoved in the back of his closet was 1 pound of garlic in a Home Depot bucket along with letters she had written him. I'm keeping the garlic. I don't think we can ever come back from his cheating, but I'm going to at least get some good meals out of this terrible situation. Please send me your favorite recipes to use the garlic in. I need a distraction to keep my mind off of everything. I really don't want to be laughing at OP's misfortune, but finding love letters that your boyfriend's garlic farmer affair partner has written next to a pound of garlic in a Home Depot bucket is a hilarious mental image. My boyfriend's family lost their home in a fire, and they're asking me to put my name on a mortgage so that they can buy a new house. I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 4 years now, living together for about 2. I'll cut to the chase. His family, his mom, dad, and sister, they had a house fire in January, and they've stayed with us in our 1-bedroom apartment for a couple of weeks until their insurance got them a hotel. Now they're in the hotel. His family had 10 cats, and 9 of those cats are in the apartment with us currently. So it's me, him, and 9 cats right now. They pay for the food and the litter, but I've bought them a cat tower and some toys. They've basically destroyed my couch, but I figured they would, and it was a cheap couch. This past Sunday, 2 days ago, they went to see a realtor to talk to him about buying a house. Where they lived was a place they rented for a decade, and the landlord was upset about the fire, so they don't want to go back there even when the house is fixed. My boyfriend was supposed to be the one on the loan because his parents aren't citizens and would have to pay a huge down payment. But since he has a social security number, he can get a regular rate. The problem is, he doesn't make enough on his own. If I helped with the loan, our combined income would be enough to qualify. If I go in on the loan, we could stay with his family in the house and save for our own house later. We'd have more space, which would be great because I'm trying to start a business and I wouldn't be living in the 1-bedroom with 9 cats. But it's also a 30-year mortgage loan. He's told me that whatever I decide to do won't affect our relationship, but I'm afraid this will for me. If I don't decide to go in on the loan, his parents said they'll get a trailer and take the cats, but his sister, who's 19, would still probably end up living with us because her job is close to us and she doesn't drive. I feel like I'm losing it. I feel like no matter what I do, I'm losing something. I'm so conflicted. I've asked the advice of my mom and some friends, and they think they're asking too much. But if I don't go in on the house, I'm still in this apartment that costs too much and adding an extra person to our space. So I'm asking, should I just let them put my name on the mortgage loan? Or should I accept that his sister will be living with us? I hate to add any more elements of stress to their lives because they've already been through so much, but now it's leaking into my life a lot. Edit. I like to clear this up. They're not pressuring me, but it's obviously a tense situation for them because they know it's their housing on the line. They're just kind of at the mercy of insurance paying for their hotel. It's a desperate situation and a desperate ask. I will talk to my boyfriend today about different options. I spoke to my mom, who is a homeowner, and she advised against this. But seeing all of your reasons as well, like not being able to get a second mortgage because of this one, is a nail in the coffin. I'll suggest his sister stay with us as long as she is looking for another place of her own and encourage her to maybe look to roommate with a good friend of hers, maybe. I knew this would be a risky move, but seeing how much it really takes from me, just know. I'll update later, but have peace of mind that I will not be taking out a mortgage for his family. Edit. The house would be in my name on the deed. The cats are not destroying my apartment, as so many people are assuming, just the couch. I obviously care about these people, which is why I would even consider it. So please stop creating a story in your head where I'm some sucker wanting to be scammed. Update. I'll be honest, I was not inclined to sign anything. Not because I didn't think his family would follow through or anything. I just knew I didn't know enough to make this decision. Homeownership is a distant thought right now at the wee age of 25. I came here hoping to see if this is something people actually do and what it would mean for me and my boyfriend if we did. The obvious risk was, what if we broke up? But I knew there was more than that, and you all made that clear. First things first, no mortgage. I made that post yesterday morning, and after reading through the comments, that actually gave me insight into something like this. I realized, yeah, there's no way we can do this. I wish it was a viable option to solve their current problem, but it just isn't. Fortunately, by the time I got home after work and talked to my boyfriend about it, he also had realized this was not a good idea. Glad I had the foresight to make us wait before giving his family an answer. It just stunted too much of our own opportunities for the future, so we were both on the same page about it. Thank goodness. Someone mentioned that you can learn a lot about someone by how they handle the word no, and I can say that I didn't really learn anything, but just confirmed suspicions I already had. His mom was very understanding, and I don't think she even understood what she was asking when it came up. After my boyfriend explained it to her, she told his dad, who's not his biological dad or even his stepdad, just his mom's longtime boyfriend. This matters for the next part. His dad did not take it very well. Before any of this, my boyfriend's parents told him they would help him get his credit up so that he could take on the loan for the house. They'd help him pay off his credit card and obviously front the money for the down payment. And they said even if we didn't help with the house, they'd still do that since he's helped so much already. As suspected though, once we made it clear that it was not happening with the mortgage and how it would damage our future chances at a home for ourselves, his dad wasn't happy. When his mom asked if they would still pay my boyfriend's credit card, his dad said no. He didn't help us, so we won't help him, is how he put it apparently. Yeah, like I said, my boyfriend's family is dysfunctional. I can't say I've ever had the most respect for his dad, but he's been there for most of my boyfriend's life. I have lots of thoughts of how this should go, but ultimately, we're just going to try problem solving in different ways. Definitely no rushing into quick fixes. Maybe be less ready to help so his dad can see what that's actually like. Also a note for all of you. I understand that the world is full of cruel people, but I think a lot of you miss the context of the situation when you cast judgment on his family's intentions. This is a family who has been displaced in a house fire. They're immigrants who aren't completely and perfectly savvy to all the logistics of buying a home. The reality for a lot of immigrants is that they do rush into terrible solutions because they don't always think that they have another option. They know that they have less resources because they lack citizen status, and it's not uncommon for kids to help their parents in extreme ways. And that doesn't just apply to immigrants. There are people all over the world taking extreme risks to try and better their situation. But since they have lived so long needing to think on their feet, they don't always feel like they can afford to look for other options. All that to say, practice a bit more compassion. I understand that this was too much of a risk for myself, but that's not going to stop me from helping them where I can. This is a terrible idea. Do not do it. They were renting before, they can find another place to rent. Do not make this your problem. Don't do it. I'm sorry for your boyfriend's family, but don't do it. This can easily get you trapped. If you consider it, meet with a lawyer and get a contract that's for your benefit and doesn't leave you with the cost for all of this. What if you do it and your boyfriend leaves anyway? Anyway, that sounds very fishy to me. If you were my client, I would tell you as an accountant to stay away from this. You are just the girlfriend, and you are in a position easily to be used. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you put your name on the mortgage or not? Please let us know.
I love compassion just as much as the next Karen, but sometimes you just gotta put your foot down.
Am I the jerk for breaking up with my boyfriend and kicking him out because he wanted to let my brother go into the system? I, 26 female, recently lost my dad. He had a 15-year-old son, my half-brother Parker. No one in my family wants to take him in due to the fact that he's my dad's affair child, which he conceived during my late mother's cancer treatment. Despite this, I love Parker dearly. Regardless of my dad's massive being a jerk, Parker is my little brother. I work in a lucrative field and I own a nice condo, which my now ex-boyfriend Colin lived in with me rent-free. He did contribute to utilities and other expenses though. We have the perfect home for Parker, and I can't for the life of me think of a single reason that we couldn't take him in. When I brought it up with Colin, he said that he didn't want to. I asked why, and he said that he just doesn't feel like looking after a kid. I reminded him that Parker is 15 and won't need constant attention or babysitting or anything like that. And Colin said that Parker would need emotional attention because he lost his father. I asked if he would really rather throw a 15-year-old into the foster system than deal with the emotional needs of said 15-year-old, and Colin said yes, while looking a bit shameful. I ended up giving him the ultimatum that Parker and I are a package deal, that I would be taking guardianship, and that Parker would be moving in. I made it clear that the only choice Colin had was if he wanted to keep the relationship and stay in the house. He called me heartless for choosing my cheating dad's son over our 5-year relationship. I called him heartless for talking that way about a kid, and he looked at me astonished and went to start packing. I love my ex, I really do, but Parker comes first. He's my own flesh and blood, the only brother I have. Meanwhile, there are plenty of other men out there. Still, my heart is breaking now that Colin's moved out. I miss him, but I don't regret my decision. Every time I think about what could have happened to my brother in foster care, I feel more love for my brother and less for Colin. My entire friend group has sided with Colin and pretty much ghosted me, which is what's given my pause here. Was I the jerk for what I did? OP, either your entire friend group are a bunch of jerks, or Colin exaggerated the tale to make himself look better. Reach out to the person you were closest to among them and ask what he said. Not the jerk. You're a real one, and your brother is lucky to have you. Colin wanted to be your only dependent. He didn't want your little brother there because it would highlight how much of a man-child Colin is and how he's not pulling his weight. The writing is on the wall. Trying to stop you from taking in your brother was Colin's Hail Mary at preserving his meal ticket. Not wanting someone else's 15-year-old kid makes someone a man-child? Holy cow, this sub is crazy. Being willing to put your supposed loved one's little brother into the foster system because it might inconvenience you a little bit absolutely does. Helping raise a troubled 15-year-old isn't an inconvenience, especially when this economy means he probably has to stay longer at home and won't just leave at 18. It's a commitment. You're the jerk. I get where you're coming from, but you're the jerk for telling him that your brother comes first over a 5-year relationship. You gave him no other choice than to leave. Now he was the jerk in how he came across, but you didn't give him any consideration in deciding how your relationship would evolve. No matter the situation, I would never have just sprung it on my partner. It would be a conversation. Then if we both felt that strongly, we'd end it. But I'd never force that decision on someone that I cared for. You're the jerk. Only sane comment here. If this is how OP acts in a relationship, then her ex-boyfriend just dodged a bullet if you ask me. Not the jerk, but y'all cut Colin some slack. They both want different things, and that's okay. He does not want a kid at this point in his life. OP wants to take care of her little brother. They're just not compatible with what they want in their lives right now. It does not mean either one is wrong. Colin is a jerk for calling the kid names, though. You're the jerk, and I'm shocked people are trying to back your decision at all. You basically told your boyfriend that he's living with a kid, whether he likes it or not, and is going to disrupt each of your lives as you know it for the foreseeable future. You're really downplaying how much each of your lives change. That's huge. You also just showed your boyfriend that your love for him is less valuable to you than this kid who he has no affiliation with. If you would have married your boyfriend, would you have picked the kid over your own husband? Any partner that doesn't pick their significant other during tough times ain't worth it. When you're sitting alone after Parker leaves your apartment and your ex you love is married to someone else, you're gonna feel like an idiot for this stupid ultimatum. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her ex-boyfriend? Please let us know. Insane religious aunt berates my cousin over her fiance and is shocked when her son sides against her. Cast. We've got my innocent cousin, we've got me, we've got my cool cousin, we've got poor boyfriend, and Entitled Aunt. It was a nice winter evening. Entitled Aunt had just come back from Dubai. I was spending the weekend with innocent cousin, and my entire family has greeted her with an open heart, but my wounds with her are still fresh. Innocent cousin was also Entitled Aunt's niece, and cool cousin was her son. But innocent cousin saw her as a mother figure because her mother was always at work. Later during the night, innocent cousin decided to introduce her boyfriend to Entitled Aunt, but problems began to develop when they started talking about marriage. Entitled Aunt. Oh, sweetie, you are such a lovely person. Where are you getting married? Poor boyfriend. Oh, we're getting married at a church. Excuse me? Innocent cousin. Please, Entitled Aunt, we all know what happened with you and OP, and we don't want that to happen again. For some reason, Entitled Aunt started yelling again.
If you don't want that to happen again, don't marry this jerk in a church.
Poor boyfriend. Ma'am, please, I really love.
If you really love her, you would leave her alone after I just warned you.
Cool cousin. Mom, that's enough. Me. Yeah, we don't want to repeat what happened between me and you. If he wants to marry her in a church, so be it.
I'm not going to listen to the talk of a pagan worshiper. You already cost me my relationship with your mother, you little crap. You're not gonna do the same thing now.
Cool cousin was getting mad, and he started yelling.
Enough, Mom! Stop hating other people for what they believe in.
You have already ruined many relationships with many of our friends and family. Why can't you keep your mind open and accept the fact that people who are different also exist? At this point, the tension in the room can be cut with a knife. Innocent cousin. Please, cool cousin, that's enough. Cool cousin.
No, that isn't enough. She already harmed OP, and she will be willing to do the same thing to you if you marry him.
Then Entitled Aunt had the guts to smack Cool Cousin across the mouth for speaking the truth.
You little jerk. I raised you for 18 years, and now you are supporting these people?
Me. That's enough, Entitled Aunt. Don't you realize that the more you try to push your own agenda on others, the more you will be hated? Even your own son can't stand your actions. The son which you raised. It's about time someone called you out on your stupid actions. Poor boyfriend and innocent cousin are getting married whether you like it or not. Poor boyfriend, quietly. Thanks, man. Entitled Aunt and Cool Cousin have finally calmed down. Cool Cousin. Mom, just please for once open your mind. Please don't always be opposed to the actions of other people. Please, Mom, I implore you to work with us this time. Entitled Aunt.
Sorry, Cool Cousin, I simply can't. And if you want to stay with OP, poor boyfriend, and innocent cousin, just know that I will never consider you to be my son.
After Entitled Aunt said that, she cut off contact with her son, who was in college. This still remains a very touchy subject, and most of my family don't want to talk about it. 2 months after the incident, poor boyfriend and innocent cousin got married in a church. Me and Cool Cousin remained close with them, and we occasionally hang out sometimes. Entitled Aunt went to Dubai to live there with her husband. The rest of our families accepted the marriage without any problems. Menu changed? I won't be back. I used to work in a dine-in movie theater. Like, waiters come to your seat and take your order and bring you food, menus, and full meal sort of thing. We had a full bar out front in the lobby instead of a concession stand. We still had popcorn and candy though. Mind you, while the food is decent, it's just standard chain fare, and most of it comes frozen. I've done every job in that building except for cooking and managing. At the point of time in this story, I was a bartender. Our menu had been mostly the same for the first 6 or so years on this particular chain being open. Typical menu, burgers and pizza, chicken tenders and salad sort of thing. Suddenly, corporate stupidly decided to completely change it. We had new desserts and completely tossed out our old ones, new names for all our burgers, got rid of our homemade pizza dough and a lot of pizza favorites, etc. But the biggest change was that they eradicated the chicken tenders and the kids' menu completely. Now, kids had to order adult-sized entrees, which we aren't exactly a kid-friendly theater anyways. Anyone under 18 has to be with a parent more or less at all times, and babies under 3 are just flat out not allowed in the building because we are, legally speaking, a bar. And the tendies were replaced with boneless wing bites. You get 8 to 12 of these measly little balls of breaded chicken that are tossed in sauce with fries or a salad. Naturally, some customers were frustrated, but hey, corporate decision, I can't change it. Anyway, as a bartender during the week, I was in charge of selling tickets and handing out menus. During the weekdays, we rarely had a ticket seller on duty out front, so people are supposed to just walk in and purchase from me. A woman, who we will call Karen, and her 15 or so year old son, who we'll call Billy, come in. I know I've seen them in before. So they purchase tickets, and Karen asks for a menu. I assented and launched into the little spiel management told me to give as I handed out the new menus. Me. No problem. Just to let you know, our menu has changed as of a few days ago. There are some awesome new items, but unfortunately, some of our old items have been replaced. Karen.
Oh, well, that's okay. As long as I can still get chicken tenders. My son and I love them. That's the only reason we come here instead of the theater we actually live beside.
She begins to flip through the menu. Me, cringing. Well, actually, the tenders are one of the items that have been replaced. We now have boneless wing bites.
What do you mean? You can't take off the tenders.
Billy, Mom, it's cool. We can just try the bites.
They better be as good as the tenders.
She's grumbling as she stalks towards their assigned theater, and her son gives me an apologetic glance as he follows behind her. They're the only people who end up in that theater. Again, weekday, slow. So when the ticket comes through, 10 minutes into the movie for a drink in that one, I know it's hers. To make it up to her that the tenders are gone, I make her drink look extra nice, garnished all pretty, and the color, it was a blue raspberry spiked lemonade, was fantastic. I tried super hard as a newbie bartender to make this thing look epic. My manager took a photo of it when I was done. I was proud of that drink. I'm friends with her waiter too, so I tell the waiter to make sure the food comes out perfect. I just want to avoid any complaints at this point and give her a good experience since the only reason they came here was for the food, specifically the tenders that they both loved so much. About 20 minutes into the movie, 10 minutes after the drink, I see her food come past and go into the theater. Not even 5 minutes later, this woman comes storming out with a plate in her hand, drink in the other, and right up to where I am making drinks at the bar. She is fuming. Her son is on her tail and begging her to calm down. My little anxious heart jumps into my throat and then falls. I hate angry customers. She speaks before I can even open my mouth.
Manager, now!
Me. Yes, ma'am. I walk around the bar and to the manager's office and knock on their door. As I'm waiting, I glance over my shoulder and see her overturn her plate onto my drink station. She has gotten the boneless bites tossed in sauce, so now the area and mats on which I mix all cocktails is covered, and I mean covered, in spicy barbecue sauce and wings and fries. She pours her perfect drink on top of it right as the manager is coming out of the office. My manager is awesome. We'll call her Violet. She doesn't even look at me, just runs straight to the woman. I follow behind but keep a bit of a distance. Manager. Ma'am, what seems to be the problem here? Billy. Nothing. Mom and I are just leaving. Everything's okay. Karen.
Shut up. That stupid bartender told me that the tenders are gone, and I had to order boneless wings instead. I ordered them, and they're gross, and she's so incompetent that she can't even make a darn mixed drink right. This drink is gross, and your standards for good food have dropped. I want to speak to corporate.
Manager. Well, here's the hotline number for corporate, but my bartender did make that drink correctly. I'm sorry it wasn't up to your standards, clearly as you've smushed all of it into my bar.
I just figured since this is her,
Points at me,
fault, she can clean it up.
because I'm somehow at fault for the entire menu change countrywide. Sorry, I get paid $8 an hour. Not my deal. Manager. The menu change was a corporate decision. My bartender didn't take the tenders off, and she made that drink perfectly. I'm sorry you're this upset, and I'll make sure corporate is aware.
I'm leaving a Yelp review too. I'm never coming back here. Everyone will know not to come here anymore. My son is so disgusted with your food.
Billy. Actually, I thought it was good, Mom. Please, it isn't that bad.
Shut up! It's not good. You should be shut down. You don't care about your customers. I will never, ever come back here. Forget you.
She's shrieking at this point. She reaches into her mess and picks up one of the bar mats she smeared food and drink onto and chucks it at me before running out of the store. Luckily, I dodged the mat, but food and drink dropped onto me and the floor now too. Her son, bless this poor kid, grabs a roll of napkins off the nearest rack. We have napkins and condiments and racks on the bar and starts trying to clean it up. He's crying quietly at this point, and I don't blame him. I was on the brink of tears myself. This would have been so embarrassing to be that woman's kid in this situation. I get down next to him and gently take the napkins from him, telling him it's okay. I get it. My manager gave him 2 free tickets and said if him and someone older wanted to come see movies, she'd take care of his food too next time, but his mom wasn't welcome back. We escorted him to the door where his mom had pulled up in her car and was slamming on the horn to get him to hurry up. They left. I cleaned it up and spent the rest of the day smelling like chicken and spiked lemonade, sticky and crumpy. Karen has tried to come back a few times, shockingly. Billy still shows up with his dad and older brother and is always the absolute sweetest kid to me and the waitstaff. But the woman has shown up alone, and I always alert manager when she appears, and she's always told to leave. Shockingly, she never throws a fit, just walks out. We never heard from corporate about her either. We still don't have chicken tenders. Crazy entitled parents called the cops on me because I refused to give them my car. Okay, a little bit of background. Where I live, there is a car show held in memory of someone in our town who passed of brain cancer, and all proceeds go to cancer research. The show is held at a raceway nearby where everyone is welcoming and kids get in free while the parents have to pay $2 to get in, while the people entering the car show or are going to go around the track pay a premium. Now the story. I had entered my car into the car show and paid extra for it to go around the track during the time event. The car show part was a few hours before the warm-up before time trials, where everyone entering could do up to 3 practice laps to get used to the course. Now this is where the kid came in. Before the practice laps start, Entitled Kid said he liked my car, 1977 Leyland Mini, and started asking me about it and how I got it. All was normal. My family who was with me said I should let him sit in it, and I agreed, but thought I could take it a step further and let him sit in the passenger seat during one of my warm-up laps. I said to him I would let him go around the track with me on account I have his parents' permission. When he heard that, his face lit up and he went to go get his parents. I thought all was normal until this happened. I was waiting around for the kid and his parents to show up. I hadn't moved from my spot and was doing some pre-checks on my car before I went out. 20 minutes had passed and I thought it was taking a little long for him to come back to give me an answer, but I thought I would wait a little longer just in case he got lost. Next thing I know, another 20 minutes have passed, then another 20 minutes. I had waited an hour for him to show back up and needed to get on the track. My car was ready half an hour ago, and I had already gotten permission from the race organizers to have a passenger for 1 lap of the practice run. I had gotten tired and went to start the car when the kid showed up with his parents. They instantly asked me if I was up to something. By the way, I just turned 18 at the time and had my girlfriend with me at the race, keeping track of my times. I told them I just wanted to give him a chance to see what it was like in a road race car, just like how someone else let me when I was his age. After hearing that, they took a few steps back and started talking, but they took 10 minutes to do so. Tired of waiting, I told them it was final call. It's either a yes or a no, and I need to get on the track now. Entitled Parents gave me a stink eye and finally said Entitled Kid could go. I had him get in and put the 5-point on, and we headed for the first practice run. I told him to hold on and don't scream while I'm driving. He seemed to understand, but during the lap, he did the exact opposite. Once it was over, I had a headache and was still trying to be nice, and I asked him if he had fun. He said he did and wanted to go again. I said from now on I had to be by myself, and he started yelling at me and got out of the car, slamming the door behind me. I had had it at that point and just went to do my last 2 laps. Once they were over, we stopped for a quick break, and this is where everything went down. First off, I had the Entitled Parents come up to me and yell at me for not letting him go again. I explained to them that I technically wasn't allowed and only got permission to do 1 lap with him. They were livid. Next thing I know, one of the organizers tells them their kid could go around the track in one of the rental track cars with his father, but it would cost $300. The Entitled Kid said no, and that he wanted to go around in my car, but I said he couldn't. Next thing I know, Entitled Father is yelling how it's a ripoff and we are wasting the money on cancer research. I lost it at that point and told them to leave, but the organizers said what they said was fine and we don't need to make this work. I left with the organizer after that to avoid more of the confrontation. Skip forward half an hour and the time trial is about to start, and guess who came back? Entitled Mom. She said she was sorry and wanted to talk. I said later, and she yells out $400. She was offering $400 for my entire car. I told her no and to get out of here. Next thing I know, the other entitled parent rocks up and says $700 for the car. I said no, and that I have more money in my car than they probably have in their bank. The father responded saying that my sad, rusted piece of crap is not worth more than $1,000 and that I would get more from crushing it than selling it. I told them to leave as they would not like what would happen next if they get in my way. I hopped in my car and drove off right past them. Once the time trial was over, I went to park in my spot to find my girlfriend and grandfather being talked to by the cops while the entitled parents were pointing at me. 2 officers came over and told me to turn off my car and get out of the vehicle. I did so and asked what was going on. The entitled parents had called the cops, claiming I stole their car. I told the cops the car was in my name and I have footage inside from a camera in my car that I use for studying my driving techniques. They asked to see the footage and I willingly showed them. They say I did nothing wrong and I had my parents bring down the proof of sale for my car. The entitled parents still tried to do me over until entitled father hit a bystander. The cops arrested him for assault and took the wife in as an accomplice. I haven't heard anything from them, but now one of the officers from the incident is a good friend of mine and we go to races together. So at least something good came out of this. Go ahead and do a chargeback, but you won't be getting a refund. Okay, I will. A couple of years ago, I ordered an express parcel delivery from the UK to the USA via one of those third-party parcel shipping companies. For those who are unfamiliar, they are a middleman and they hold huge accounts with UPS, DHL, FedEx, etc. They then offer cheaper parcel rates and pass some of this discount on to the customer. So I ordered an express 48-hour delivery with one of these delivery companies for my 2 parcels to the USA. This cost me around £100 for the first 2 boxes, and from experience using this delivery company in the past, they have a delivery guarantee, which offers me a full refund of all carriage charges if any part of the shipment is not delivered within 48 hours. A few days later, I was told by my customer that the boxes had arrived 2 days late. Not a problem. I checked the tracking number and it had been held up at the UK-based air freight terminal, which entitled me to a full refund of the carriage charges. I then contacted the delivery company, but I was told that although I was fully entitled to a full refund, I'd have to speak to the third-party shipping company. I contacted them by phone and I was told that they don't issue refunds for delayed parcels. I explained that this was a guaranteed service and the delivery company said that I was entitled to a refund. At this point, I was passed on to a manager by the call center operative without even asking. The manager was very obnoxious and wasn't bothered that my parcel had been delayed. In his opinion, I shouldn't expect it to get there on time when I had paid such a low price. So you want a full refund just because your parcel is delayed? Yes, I do, because that is what was in the terms and conditions. But you didn't buy the extra insurance. No, I didn't, because the delivery already included £1,000 of insurance anyway. Well, we don't do refunds for delayed parcels, and especially if you haven't paid for the insurance. At this point, I was getting pretty annoyed because he was making up this idea of buying insurance to cover for delays. The insurance only covered total loss and damage anyway. So I explained that if I didn't receive a refund, I would simply initiate a chargeback on my credit card for the payment. At this point, he raised his voice and told me, "Fine, try to do a chargeback then. We will fight it and you won't get a refund. Yeah, your parcel was late, but that doesn't mean you get a free delivery." I ended the call and got straight on the phone to my credit card company. They went through a rigorous process with me and asked for a copy of the original invoice, the terms and conditions, etc. Within 24 hours, they had refunded the full amount back to my card and sent me a letter giving me the reasons they found the chargeback in my favor. It also explained that the merchant, the shipping company, had 30 days to contest the chargeback. However, 30 days came and went and the money was still showing as refunded. 6 weeks later, I receive an email from their customer service team telling me that they were willing to give me a partial refund of 10% to compensate me for the delay. Obviously, somebody hadn't realized that I had initiated a chargeback and now it was too late. So I replied and politely explained that I was told by the manager, stating his name, to initiate a chargeback because their company doesn't issue refunds even when their terms and conditions say they do. Therefore, as far as I was concerned, the matter was now closed as my credit card company had given them 30 days to reply to the chargeback and they had not replied. Therefore, the chargeback was granted. Not only did I never hear anything back from them, but I haven't used this company since. The Girl Friday with the PhD takes over the business from the ungrateful owner. My spouse was the second person hired at a consulting company in a very specialized industry. In her 15 years with the firm, it grew to a respectable 3-office, 8 to 10 employees at each location entity. She and the owner grew the business on the contacts, expertise, and presentation of my wife, to the extent that my wife's abilities and education were the main reason new business came through the door. Over the years, her scope of responsibility grew so that the owner was basically 75% absent and mostly unaware of day-to-day activity. As he got more and more removed from the business, he would make overtures that he would eventually retire and sell her the business. He was so dependent on her income generating that he took out a life insurance policy on her. I did not involve myself too much. But at a major industry dinner party I attended with her, he introduced my wife to the table as my Girl Friday, basically a secretary, which was weird. Over the years, she tried to get an agreement in place to buy the firm, even if it was 2 years away. He always delayed and made promises but never followed through. I told her, "This guy doesn't respect you or your contribution. He will never sell you the business because there is no reason to. He can make more money by stringing you along, and essentially, you are the business. Why would he sell it to you?" One day, out of the blue, my wife received a raise and bonus, a very minor amount of money, and a contract that included a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement. After reading it, she realized that the owner was trying to lock her down from leaving for another firm. She had been getting feelers from other companies. To make things even more suspicious, she received a call from a competitor who said they were in final stages of due diligence and they wanted to meet her. The jerk was selling the company and didn't think to tell her or ask if she was interested in buying it. She ignored the agreement and there were no other agreements in place. She was totally free. My wife is extremely loyal. She has missed so many special days working for this guy, stuck around when they were wobbly, even skipped paychecks when there were tough financial times. She was furious, the absolute maddest I've ever seen her. We discussed starting her own firm, and I asked, how much business is contractually obligated to stay there if you leave? It turned out that most agreements were either handshakes or 30-day at will. I also asked how many would leave with you. She said about 75%, including her biggest source of revenue, who didn't even know the owner. In a very short time, my wife took a 3-week vacation. She had months of unused time, during which time she rented an office in the same building and made all the arrangements to set up a new shop. She agreed to leave any and all company property behind and do her best to give the old company no obvious ammo for litigation. She called her clients and said, "I'm leaving. If you want to look into relocating your account with my new company, you'll need to quit the old one before we can discuss it." Most understood the implication. While she was on vacation, she received a panic call from her boss. "We lost XYZ company. Do you know anything about it?" She said, "I'm sorry, but I just sent you an email. I've resigned. All my keys and company stuff is on my desk. Bye-bye." The new firm took basically 90% of the business and seamlessly transitioned into the same company as it was before, but with a new owner. Even most of the office staff would come aboard. Within a year, her old company closed down except for the small office her old boss ran. She sees him once in a while, and he just scowls at her. Entitled man calls the cops on me for parking my truck properly. So this happened like a year ago. I'm doing truck driving in a moving company in the big cities, and due to that, I have to park in some crappy places due to customers living in crowded areas. I had a gig where I had to drive like 150 kilometers to another city to do moving services with a team for a company. So once we got there, we saw that there was construction work going on right next door, which resulted in part of the sidewalk being taken up. Also, because it had only one right lane, for safety reasons I had to park my truck partly on the sidewalk so that cars wouldn't run into each other. I had made sure that there was enough room for people to go through without having to get too close to the road. By the way, this is completely legal in my country. So it took about 30 minutes, and there he was. This was around 2-hour packing job. This middle-aged guy on a bike, ready to conquer the world, entitled biker. First he came next to my truck and started taking pictures. I don't mind, because this kind of behavior is nothing new to me. Entitled biker. "Hey, you have to move your truck." Me. "No man, I'm in the middle of the work, and there was absolutely enough room that you could get through." Entitled biker. "What if there comes someone with kids in a carriage?" Cue a woman walking through with a kid carriage, looking confused because we both looked at her. I give entitled biker a smile. Never stopped working, by the way. "You know that parking like this is illegal, right?" Me. "No, it isn't. You can look it up if you want." "Move your truck. This is illegal." My coworkers come from the inside to bring more stuff to pack. Coworker 1. "What's going on?" Me. "Some jerk is trying to make me move my truck, so nothing unusual. Just don't worry about it." Coworker 2. "Don't you have anything better to do than harass people who are just trying to do their job?" Entitled biker. "Move this truck, or I'm going to call the police." We all just smile and leave him to his BS and keep working because we know that he can't do anything. The guy then proceeds to make a few phone calls, I assume to our company and the police, and keeps spewing his BS. We just ignore it because we have a lot of places to go and know we'll be doing at least 2 hours of overtime without him bothering us. Another 15 minutes go by. Entitled biker. Move your truck, or I'll call the police. Me, now smiling. Who did you just call now then? Entitled biker goes silent for a minute and keeps on spewing about my illegal parking. Then I saw a police car drive behind his back. They looked at the situation, slowed down, smiled, and kept on driving. It was the middle of the day, so by now there were a lot of trucks all over the place taking up sidewalks in my area. Post trucks, vehicles bringing food to stores, etc. So I tell him, dude, can't you just go harass the other truck drivers? Look around you, man. I'm not the only one parked like this. But either way, thanks for the laughs. I really enjoyed this. Entitled biker is fuming at this point, so me and my coworkers give up and just tell him to buzz off. He finally decides to leave, but it isn't over yet. Entitled biker decided to go and post about this incident to Facebook to all his 100 friends, and my coworker spotted the post. He basically was rambling how I was a jerk for parking there and we were disrespectful, and they just thanked me for the laughs they got out of me. At first I didn't pay any mind, but then he had also ranted about how he was almost fined for calling the emergency number on us, and they warned Entitled biker that if he called again, he would be fined for disrupting the emergency line or something. But yeah, happy ending. It was a long day, but we got a lot of good laughs about it, and the construction workers also laughed. What the heck was that all about? And we even told our boss about it, who also laughed how some people can be so stupid. No problem, I'll print that video for you, and while I'm at it, I might have you fired as well. Context. This happened a few years ago. I was 18 and working as a receptionist for a community nursing center. As the youngest in the team by a long shot, the average age of employees being around 55 to 60, I was usually the one responsible for the computer stuff. Mostly just simple things, nothing a quick Google couldn't solve. The other staff members were wonderful, and I learned a lot from working with them, except for the assistant manager, Karen. This woman was the bane of my existence. She was over 75, recently came out of a 15-year retirement as a receptionist, and was armed with a certificate in business management from a 4-hour online class. She refused to learn basic computer skills such as Word or email, stating that she didn't need to learn them again when she had others to do it for her, namely me. In a 5-hour shift, I would spend 3 hours just fielding her tasks. Needless to say, this came along with all the fun personality traits that make a manager from heck. At the start of my shift, I received an email from Karen asking me to print the attached files. One was a PDF and the other was an MP4. So assuming she meant just the PDF, I take the printed copy to her. This is roughly how the exchange went. Karen.
Why do you only have one file? I sent 2.
Me. You want me to print an MP4?
Isn't that what I asked? A monkey could do your job, and probably better at it.
Here, I'm pretty sure she laughed at her own joke. Me, desperate. Look, I don't think you understand.
Don't try and teach me. Don't forget, I did your job for 20 years, and now I could have you fired.
Already over it, and ready for some malicious compliance. Me. Okay, well, I've never printed this type of file before, so it might take a while. Karen interrupts.
I don't care how long it takes. I'm your boss, and I've told you to do this. Once it's done, you can move on to the other jobs.
I'm grinning ear to ear at this point. I get back to my desk and send her an email summarizing our conversation and explicitly clarifying she wanted me to print an MP4, to which I got a snarky reply. Perfect. I spent the next 4 to 5 hours pausing the video every 2 to 3 frames, screenshotting it, pasting it to a Word document, and printing. The administrative tasks piled up, not that Karen noticed, because she mostly spent her time reading magazines or talking on the phone. I felt bad as this placed an extra load on the other receptionists. However, since Karen was universally hated, they gave me their blessing. Once complete, I took about 100 pages, carefully held with clips to her desk, and sweetly told her that I'd printed the file. She looked smug until she saw what was in front of her. Page after page of almost the same picture as the man moves through the video. Some slightly blurry, all in full color. She was furious, to say the least. But I was 1 hour overtime on my shift, and Karen knew that would already cause her some issues, so she let me leave. Though I knew it wasn't over yet. As expected, I get called into HR for a meeting the following week, where they accused me of wasting company time and not complying with management. I explained the situation in detail and showed them the email, including her awful reply. I also showed them a few more emails and texts where Karen used some particularly descriptive words to insult our staff members, including the very HR rep taking my interview. Turns out, this was the straw that broke the camel's back, as Karen had multiple reports against her from other staff members, and she had been driving HR insane with her own complaints. She lost her job the following week. The best part is that this happened on a Sunday, where I got double pay. I took some of that sweet overtime cash and brought in cupcakes to work once Karen was gone. I said it was an end-of-week treat, but we all knew what we were celebrating. The HR rep seemed to particularly enjoy hers. Entitled Grandmother thinks it's okay to take my stuff without my permission. Back when I was a freshman in high school, my grandmother thought that it would be a good idea to take my belongings without informing me while I was at school. To elaborate, I had a small table with cubby holes in it that I kept belongings in that were important to me. I had autographs, signed art, and awards I had earned over the years in those cubby holes. I came home from school to go to my room only to see that the table had been replaced with an enormous dresser. Confused and concerned for my belongings, I went to confront my grandmother about where everything went. This was the conversation that followed. We've got entitled grandmother, we've got me, we've got oblivious grandfather who doesn't understand why I was so upset. Me: "Hey, Grandma, what happened to my table in my room?" Grandma: "Oh, I took it out and put it out on the porch for a place to put my shoes. I hope you don't mind, OP." I thought she was joking because why would anyone use a table as a shoe rack? We already had several by the front door, and I didn't think she was serious, but I went out to the porch, and sure enough, there it was. Decorated with shoes, potted plants, and empty mason jars. I then come back inside to ask where my belongings were and what she did with them. Me: "If you wanted my table, you could have asked when I got home. Also, where's my stuff that was in it?" At this point, my entitled grandmother starts to get defensive and tries to avoid my questioning. Grandma: "I wasn't going to wait for you all day to come home. I have a lot of work to do, and you should feel grateful that I replaced your table with a desk." Yeah, she thought that the dresser that she got me was a desk. I looked at her, still trying to decide if she was serious or not, and she was. I tried to explain to her that a desk has leg room and doesn't have the drawer that a dresser has for you to put clothes in. She wasn't hearing it. However, I wasn't either, and continued to ask her where my belongings were until she finally gave in and told me. Grandma: "Why do you care so much about those things? It was only several awards and other crap. I had to do something with them in order to move the table, so I put them in a box while you were at school and moved them to storage." Me: "What the heck? You took my stuff and put it in a box without telling me?" "Don't use that type of language in my house. I'm going to smack the heck out of you if you use it again." Me: "I don't give a hoot if you smack me. You took my crap without even letting me look through the box to see if I wanted to keep anything." Not long after my grandmother and I started arguing, my grandfather comes into the room after hearing us arguing outside. He had been on the phone with a client of his, and as soon as the client hung up, he came in to see what was going on. Oblivious Grandpa: "OP and entitled Grandma, what are you arguing about this time?" For context, my grandmother and I never got along well, and this only tipped the boat even more into the water. Me: "She took my table and crap that was inside it to use it as a shoe rack when she already has 3 of them by the front door." Grandpa: "OP, you shouldn't talk to your entitled grandmother like that. I've noticed how disrespectful you've been getting around the house towards her, and you need to straighten up your act." Upon hearing this, entitled Grandma tries to play the victim card and starts tearing up, voice cracking and everything. Entitled Grandma: "OP, why are you always so angry at me? Have I not done enough for you already? What did I do to deserve this kind of treatment from you? Please tell me." Me: "Don't pull that crap with me, Grandma. You've been doing it every time I catch you doing something crappy, just so you don't have to take responsibility." My grandpa gets furious at this point with me. He disregards the fact that his wife had stolen my belongings and starts going off at me. Grandpa: "OP, look what you've done. You need to learn to respect your elders. You've always been a good granddaughter, but this is unacceptable. I can't believe how you're displaying yourself right now. This is my household, and you are only 15. Me: "15 or not, she," entitled Grandma, "stole stuff that was important to me. How would you feel if I went into your room, took your clothes and stuff out of it,
stuck it in a box while you were out of town, and told you that I put it in a storage room and replaced your furniture with something else that serves no use to you. Grandma: well, I would feel grateful that someone would take their time to think of me and spend money on me. Grandpa: see, entitled grandma is thankful for things in her life. Why can't you be, OP? You need to learn how to be thankful for what others have done for you in life. Otherwise, you won't get anywhere. What do you think your boss would say if you spoke like this to him? Me: I think he'd have some common sense to know that you shouldn't steal other people's stuff, even if they aren't in the room. I had ended up storming off and could hear Grandpa and Grandma talking about how rude I was. The storage area wasn't too far from my house, only down the road, so I walked down there the next day and couldn't find the box my grandmother was talking about. To this day, every time I try to go and see if I can find the box, I believe that my entitled grandmother threw it away and tried to come up with something that would get me to stop questioning her. I've seen all your comments, and I can understand why you suggested that I need to get over it. However, I will say, while this is true, I had important belongings of mine that were taken away without my knowledge. The most important being my signed artwork I have done over the years and given to actors to sign while at conventions. I don't think I can get over losing those. What would you do if you were in this situation? What would you say to your grandma, and how would you act towards her? Please let me know in the comments. Entitled neighbor makes a huge mistake. This was about 25 years ago, so I was about 8 years old, and we had just moved into a 150-year-old house that was in need of major repairs. My dad, thinking ahead, knew he would need a large garage/workshop to really get started on the renovations properly. On the edge of our yard was an ancient barn that was falling apart and needed to be torn down. My dad figured this was the best place to build his new workshop, so that was the plan. We had met and were on good terms with all of the neighbors at that point. When the plans for the new workshop were finished, my parents went around to all the neighbors as a courtesy to show them the plans and get their blessing. The neighbors whose property the current barn and new workshop would border, I'll call them the Peters, were concerned about the height. The existing barn was 16 feet high, and they asked if we could build it to only one story, 12 feet max, as to not block the sun in their yard. Sure, no problem. My parents agreed. They wanted to go 2 stories for extra storage, but just one wasn't a deal breaker. So the old barn was torn down and the foundation laid for the new one. During that time, there was a falling out with the Peters and my parents. I'm not sure what happened, but it turned nasty. One day, my brother and I were playing street hockey, and Mr. Peters came out yelling at us, "Get off the road! You have to earn your place in this town." Upon hearing this, my mom had to physically restrain my dad from going over and beating him up. Eventually, he cooled off and started on his plan. The plans for one story went out the window. Soon, the new garage that was only supposed to be 1 story gained a second in the blueprints. If they were going to act like this with us kids, my dad would build what he wanted. As construction started, the Peters came over to ask why there were 2 stories being built and were told to go forget themselves. We didn't hear from them again until the roof started to go on. The bylaws of the township limited all outstructures to 24 feet high. The Peters called the township and then a building inspector, claiming that the new garage was over 24 feet high. If it was over height, the entire thing would have to be torn down and rebuilt, costing us tens of thousands of dollars. I remember the Peters standing there, watching the inspector, with smug looks on their faces. 2 days later, we got the final report back from the township inspector, 23 feet, 11 inches, just as my dad had drawn up in his new plans. He sent me up on the roof of the garage, just plywood, no singles yet, with some spray paint, and had me write 23 feet, 11 inches, height approved, in 2-foot high neon orange letters across the entire roof, facing their yard and house. Not only did the garage block all sunlight from reaching their yard, but my dad waited until everything else was done before he shingled that side of the roof. They had to stare at those neon orange letters for almost 3 years. We didn't hear a peep from them for the next 10 years until they moved. I want a Baconator now. So, I used to work at a famous fast food chain. It was my first job, and I hated it. Fast food workers get so much crap from people. I have recently moved over to the store next to the restaurant, a gas station, and I love it there. My boyfriend and I went to the restaurant for lunch one day.
He used to work there too. It's where we met. We got our food and sat down at a table we used to always sit at and begin eating and chatting, even taking some pictures when I feel a hard tap on my shoulder. Now, I've read some stories on here and have worked in this place enough to know a Karen when I see one, so I breathed out a breath. Yes, the Karen sighs and folds her arms across her chest.
I want a Baconator.
My boyfriend stops eating and looks up. I'm sorry, but we don't work here. I want to note that I was in blue jeans and an overly big blue and red wolf sweatshirt, my boyfriend's, and he was wearing blue jeans and a yellow t-shirt and a Chevrolet hat. She scowls and points at me.
Yes, you do. I've seen you behind the counter. Now get me my Baconator and a side of fries, and make that fresh. No tomato and no pickles.
I now recognize the lady as one that always had to fuss about everything and made my job 11 times harder. I used to work here, but I don't anymore. Please leave us alone. We're trying to enjoy our lunch. I turn around only to get slapped on the back of my head and I freeze.
Give me my Baconator!
I see my boyfriend tense out of the corner of my eye before he slowly turns around and stands to his full 6'4" height, towering over the lady.
Get the heck away from us before I do something I really don't want to do.
His voice is cold as he glares down at her. He is visibly shaking in rage. I don't take being touched well, especially hit. Even light taps can send me into a panic because of my past, and he knows this. The lady stares wide-eyed at him before scurrying over to the counter. He sits down, thinking it's over, but I know this woman, and she is not done yet. I watch as the manager in charge, one of my favorites, love her, comes over with a confused look. I heard that you assaulted someone? My boyfriend snorts and looks at her.
She assaulted us. Look at the cameras.
The manager's eyes slide over to me, to which I nod. She goes back behind the counter to look at the cameras, and she soon comes out on the phone. Apparently, she also assaulted the employee behind the counter by throwing a drink at him, so the police were called. I watched with satisfaction as my manager told her that she was banned, and as she was escorted out. None of us pressed charges just because we didn't want to deal with her anymore. Speaking of Baconators, what's your favorite fast food place? I'm so hungry right now and I'd love to hear from you.
No, I won't show you my ID even though it'll take 2 seconds.
This was my first time meeting a Karen and I thought I would share it. I used to work for a big UK fashion retail brand, and policy at the time was to ask the customer for a form of ID to confirm that the name on the online order was the same on the ID. The reason for this was to ensure that the person collecting the parcel was the right person, and also for security reasons due to certain customers having a credit account with the store. Anyway, it begins. We've got Kevin, the male customer, and Karen, the female customer. Kevin: Hey there, I'm here to pick up an order. Me: Yeah, that's no problem. Can I take your reference number, please? Sure, no problem. It's 123456. Me: That's great. While that's searching in our system, do you have a form of ID on you? I do. Is a driver's license okay? Me: Yeah, that's perfect. I look at his license and confirm his name to the name on the order. I've confirmed the Kevin's order, and as I go to get it, I notice Karen waiting on the end of the till. I see she has no clothing items in her hand, so assume she's also collecting a parcel. We use a zebra device, so I'm able to collect more than one customer's order at a time, and so begins my endeavor with Karen. Me: Hello, are you also collecting a parcel? Karen:
I am, yeah.
Me: That's perfect. Do you have your reference number with you?
Nope, I used my credit account with the store.
She gets out her purse and takes out her store card and shows it to me. I scan it and her order comes up. Now, when someone comes in and collects an order with their credit account, we were told to always ask for ID, as fraud could take place and this could ruin the customer's credit rating, among other things. I read her name off of the device I have. Me: Mrs. Karen?
Oh yes, that's me.
Me: Okay, do you have a form of ID to confirm your identity?
No!
I was confused here, because whenever someone picks up an order, they always get a text or email to confirm it's in store and ready for pickup. And in this text or email, it always says, please bring a form of ID. I say to her, sorry?
No, I don't want to.
Me: It's just to confirm that you are the right and correct person to pick up the parcel.
I don't care. I don't want to show you my ID. I've shopped with this company for 30 years, and not once have I been asked for an ID. I was a customer here when the store was still at its old location, and they never asked me for an ID.
Me. It can be anything, even a bank card, as long as it's got your name on it.
No! I don't want to. Do I have to tell you again?
Me. Okay, sorry. Now, I was fairly new at the time, so was super confused and somewhat anxious as I wasn't too sure what to do. Another member of staff comes over and asks if I'm okay, and I just tell her, yeah, and that I can sort it. I go and get the 2 customer parcels, and one thing we can do is ask the customer to confirm their postcode for us as it's printed onto the parcel. Although this should be the last method of customer confirmation, as getting a postcode for something and their name is easy. So I go back out onto the shop floor and back to the till point. Me. Can you confirm your postcode for me? Karen scoffs.
Who? Him or me?
Me, standing right in front of her, clearly speaking to her. His. Did that to make her wait longer. So I hand the parcel over to the guy and he leaves. Me. Now, can I have your postcode, please?
AB1234C.
There you go. Bye. So yeah, that's it. She was extremely rude, and I honestly couldn't care if she hadn't been asked before. I told her that it was policy and that she should have been asked for ID. Plus, it would have been so easy to take out her ID. It was in her open purse in her hand. I found out after from my colleague that she called me pathetic and stupid while I was getting her parcel, and that she was complaining about being asked for her ID. Entitled Mother Lets Her Kids Steal My Blind Cane. So a bit of backstory. I am a 28-year-old woman who just recently went fully blind. When I was a teenager, I volunteered with my local youth crew to help rebuild Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina. And while down there, I picked up a fungal parasite called histoplasmosis that over a decade migrated to my eyes and slowly caused blindness. I've been totally blind for about a year now, so I'm pretty new to it, but I digress. When I first went blind, I barely left the house and was afraid to go out in public. I felt like everyone was staring at me, and in all honesty, I barely knew what I was doing. The transition had been difficult, and I didn't have any support group to teach me. One day, my husband asks if I can take an Uber down to the bank and deposit a rent check, and I reluctantly agree. While out, he messages again and reminds me that we're out of a few crucial groceries. There was a Walmart grocery literally across the street from the bank, so I figure everything in life is an experience and I'll have to learn how to shop alone eventually, so why not? Everything was fine at first, and I was only grabbing a few things, so I didn't need a card. I was using my cane and what little echolocation skills I had at the time to get around, but was still bumping into things as we blind tend to do sometimes. My cane suddenly hit something a bit softer, and I figured maybe I had whacked someone's leg, and I apologize. Cue entitled kid and entitled mother. Me. Shoot, I'm sorry. Entitled mom.
Hey, you just hit my son.
Me. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't see him there. Entitled mom begins yelling.
How could you not see him? He's clearly right here.
Now, I'm fully blind, so I don't wear sunglasses. Mostly because I can't afford a good UV blocking pair, but also I'm not ever looking for pity or to play the part of a generic blind person. I just want to be treated like a normal person, but I do understand her confusion as blindness is a spectrum, so I try to calmly explain. Me. Ma'am, I'm blind. I can't see anything, let alone your son. That's why I have to use the cane so I can get around without she cuts me off.
If you're blind, why aren't you wearing big sunglasses?
Now, as a blind person, I get a lot of stupid questions, but I understand a lot of them are just people who don't know better. So I try to happily answer as many as I can. Me. Those are really expensive, around $200 for a good pair, and I really don't need any inside.
You're not blind? You're faking it.
Here is where my blood starts to boil. I can't think of any reason someone would want to pretend to be blind. It's an actual heck, and nothing upsets me more than when someone calls me a liar when I'm not. Just as I'm about to respond, I feel a tug, and before I blink, I realize this little jerk spawn has snatched my $100 cane from my hands. For those of you who don't understand, that's like if you're shopping and suddenly the power goes out and you can't see a single light. Without my cane, I can barely move at all without crashing into anything. My voice gets shaky as I begin to panic. Please, give that back. I really do need it.
No, you don't, you liar. My son deserves to play with this more than you.
I hear her shuffle away and my expensive cane cracking into metal displays and such as they leave. I start crying and waving my arms in front of me to grab onto something, anything, and end up crashing and falling into a center aisle display, making a loud scene. Without fail, I somewhat curl into a ball and cry. I'm alone in public, in the dark, and I had no idea what to do. Suddenly, I feel a hand on my shoulder and a man's voice. We'll call him Awesome Guy. Asks if I'm okay and tells me to stay right there. I do, but begin to at least sit up and listen. This man must have been tall and built like a tank because his footsteps sounded like a giant, and I felt a suction of wind when he took off. Maybe about 30 or 40 feet away, I hear this loud bellowing like an angry lion and a loud crash. Then, before I know it, the man is back and helping me to my feet. He takes my hand and puts my cane into my palm and helps me pick up the items I dropped when I fell into the display. Me wiping tears from my cheeks. Thank you so much. I didn't know how to handle that. Awesome Guy. Don't worry about it. Some people are just monsters. This guy restored my faith in humanity and even helped me finish shopping and helped me out of the store. As we're leaving, I can hear the familiar screeching of entitled mom. Something about Awesome Guy grabbing the cane and pulling it, flinging her little jerk into a shopping cart. I don't know if she was exaggerating or not, but it would explain the crash I heard. It's easy to feel alone in a world without sight, but even through the sheer terror of being stripped of my cane, at least I know now that there are people willing to stand up for me when I need it. Entitled Parent comes in after closing, gets caught stealing, and complains about being a single mom. Closing the store, reaching to lock the front door, an entitled parent runs inside, says she just needs a couple things for her kids. Okay, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Continue closing duties, notice her watching us and moving to hide behind end caps when she sees us look up. Got a bad feeling about her. Circle the store and see she has a full cart and is sweeping more out of the dairy case into it. She is actually clearing whole shelves of things like cheese and yogurt into the cart. She tries to get away when I approach her, but the cart is too heavy for her to push it fast. I catch up with her and tell her the store is closed and she must go to the register now because we need to disinfect everything. She goes to the self-checkout. We see her make the scanning motion, but not scanning the items, and then putting them in a bag in her cart. We call her out on this. She feigns ignorance. We make her scan it again. We get attitude. She gets done scanning. We're pretty sure she phantom scanned more items, but we were distracted doing closing work. She has a big total, over $200. She pulls out a payment method that is clearly noted in the checkout area, we do not accept. She starts to throw an entitled parent fit, but she is put in her place about coming in after hours and knowing we don't take her payment method. More attitude. We get the manager on duty to try to help her. Between cash and debit and credit cards, she gets her balance to just under $100. Manager gives her the remaining balance and she asks,
So what? I gotta pay that too?
Manager tells her yes. She eyes the door. No way she can push the heavy cart fast enough to beat us to the door. Manager basically says that to her, and I add, yeah, and she's locked in too. Remember, we were locking up, so she can't get out unless we unlock the doors with a key. We can tell something is wrong. She's too nervous. I say, she should just return the items until she's paid. Manager smiles and agrees, starts ringing returns. Entitled parent is complaining we should just let her leave. It doesn't take long to find out why she's so nervous. Quite a bit of her stuff won't ring up because it's not on the receipt. She had tried refusing to hand over the paper receipt, not knowing that the manager has it up on his computer screen. Of course, none of the expensive baby/kid stuff was rung in. Formula, diapers, wipes, etc. She is so busted. She thinks she's going to jail, but we know the cops won't come out unless someone is hurt. But we talk about the cops we know while trying to get her total down, just to wind her up more. She is finally paid in full. Over $200 worth of items have to be returned to stock. She paid for $100, tried to steal $100, and we returned $100. This jerk came into a closed store, tried to steal $100 worth of merchandise, and wanted to be let off the hook for paying what she kept. I got the pleasure of walking her to the doors. I made sure she went out the door furthest from her car. While walking there, she is complaining about how we treated her and saying she's a single mom. That crap don't flush with me. I say, "So, you're home all day with the kids?" She said she is. Then I say, "Next time, come in earlier. And by the way, you'll be using a cashier from now on. No more self-checkout for you." Her jaw dropped. She went to say something else, but I shut the door in her face and locked it again. Had to get back inside and put her stuff back in the cooler. How do you get caught stealing and then complain the store takes the stuff off you? Entitlement. Entitled parents think I should give them thousands of dollars and they never even thank me. My parents requested I come home during all of this mess, which has been the biggest mistake of my life. Seriously, it was an awful move, and once I'm out of here, I am never speaking to these people again. I have a good amount of money coming in because I work my butt off, and some projects are finally paying off. When I first got here several weeks ago, they started requesting I pay random bills. My mom said, "That would be awesome," and faked being happy when I know now she clearly expected to make bank off of me. Car insurance, cell phone bills, house payments, etc. I've been happily paying them. Not only have they not said thank you once, which I wouldn't mind if they just showed me some sorta not negative emotion, but they are constantly making me wait several days to pay these bills and being weirdly aggressive about it. The logical next step is to not pay the bills, right? Except when I said I wouldn't help if it bothered them, my stepdad flipped crap and called me a freeloader. So my taxes came, and I decided to give my mom $400. Because I have good money coming in, I also ordered random odds and ends that I need/want. Not only was I not told thank you for the $400, but now as my things come in every time something arrives in the mail, they both get passive aggressive. It doesn't matter if it's a $9 skin cream. I might as well have lavished myself with gold by the way they overreact. I also told my mom because I made under enough to get the $1,200, when it comes, I'm going to give her $500. When I told her this, she got weirdly passive-aggressive about it again, and I could tell that she wants the whole $1,200. I don't get it. They make good money. They both just got more than me back in taxes. Also, does not help that they have done nothing but crap on me and ride me since I got here, treating me like trash, even recruiting my brother into it. Seriously, they've made me feel lower than dirt. I'm crying myself to sleep every night because of how they're treating me every day. And just now, my stepdad messaged me that I need to knock off the spending spree and grow up. Excuse me, because I know they raised me, but in my world, if anyone happily gives you thousands in cash without complaint, you at least be nice to them. But with them, they clearly want every penny I have and to treat me like trash. I own a home, I have a life, I have a career. I don't need to grow up. I'm grown. I would dip today if my state wasn't under a stay-at-home order and if I wasn't so worried about my mom who works with the public. Edit. We live in a state where it's dirt cheap to live. Just to really put an emphasis on how crappy it is that my thousands haven't been enough money for them. The money I've spent in 1 month here would pay someone's rent in this state for 5 months. I've given them a lot. I think I deserve a good job or a thank you for helping. All I want is for them to show me some kind of love.
Imagine your best friend catfishes your spouse and ruins your marriage. That's exactly what happens in our next story, the one that just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.